Things just got worse and worse and worse as the night went on. Again, valiant effort down the stretch for the Bucks. Just too little, too late. Let's go down and let's see what Coach Fletch and the rest of the crew has to say. As always, go Bulls. So let's head into the locker room right now and see what the guys have to say about that one. Wow. Where do the Buccaneers go from here? What an incredible atmosphere. What a good win for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They snapped a 7-game winning streak. How we feeling, Bucs Nation? It's time to party, baby.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Jay Recher Podcast. Hope everybody is well. Happy May 27th, 2025. A lot of crazy things going on in the Tampa Bay area. Keeping a close eye on UT softball. They are playing right now in the championship game. It's best of 3. Game 1 right now against UT Tyler there in Chattanooga. It is a 0-0 score in the bottom of the 4th inning. We'll keep you abreast of that situation. The more we get that information of what is going on, because there is plenty to get into on the program today. What a wild show. We've got five, count them, 5 big guests for you on the program today. Let's start off at 12:30. We got Nicky Rodriguez joining us. Missouri State Bears. This is a guy that had a 40-game hitting streak in college, one of the best college hitters this season. Tampa guy, Jesuit Tiger. I mean, this guy, incredible. We've been following Nick Rodriguez for a while, so he's going to join us at 12:30 today. At 1 o'clock, Ian Beckles joins us on the program. We got to make sure you're looking good. Got the brush in, right? Making sure we look good. Our guy Ian Beckles right here. He does the whole thing with the beard. That's a Beck move right there. What's going on at the Dignitary Cafe? We'll chat with him at 1 o'clock today, since he didn't join us at 12:30 because we were off yesterday for Memorial Day. And again, and you guys know, if you know me at all, how I put so much onus into our armed services and our armed forces and everybody. And both of my grandfathers served, and that's why something like the national anthem is always so big to me. And remembering those who gave everything, who gave it all for our freedoms here in this country. So Memorial Day, listen, I know everybody was out there having a good time, but let's make sure we keep things in perspective of why we're able to do what we do. But yesterday during Memorial Day, I went over to the Dignitary Cafe and checked out what they got going on over there. The food that we had, oh my God, the greatest shrimp and grits ever. The best shrimp and grits that I've ever had, ever, yesterday over at the Dignitary Cafe. Ian will join us at 1 o'clock today. All right. Also, listen, we're not done. We got plenty to get into on the program today because we have so many freaking guests on the program. At 1:45 today, Sammy Militello is going to join us. UT pitching coach, former big leaguer for the New York Yankees. Sammy with Joe Urso and Jose Jimenez. UT moves on. They win. They beat West Florida 2 out of 2. 2 games. Unbelievable. And they move on to Cary, North Carolina, to the championship, to the World Series there. I went last year. I'm trying to go again this year. They're looking for national championship number 10. Can you believe that? At 2:05 today, Lightning video coach Nigel Kirwan, one of the most popular coaches here in the Bay Area. We did this a couple of years ago on WDAE, the Mount Rushmore of, and I usually hate Mount Rushmores, but I thought this was a good one. The Mount Rushmore of assistant coaches in the Tampa Bay area, and Nigel Kirwan is definitely on there. He's got his name on all 3 of the cups that the Tampa Bay Lightning have won. So yeah, great to catch up with him. He'll break down the Bolt season with us and also tell us what it's like to be with the team from the beginning. And then at 2:30 today, Rich Hollenberg closes the show with his perspective on the red hot Rays. The Rays are on fire, and I told you guys, I let you guys know. This was a pivotal weekend for the Rays. Go out there, get a sweep, come back, and you're right in the thick of things. We'll get into that here in a little bit. I, of course, want to hear from you guys. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. I am everywhere. Follow me on all social media at Jay Recher. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. June is going to be even bigger than May and July and August. Man, we got a lot of things in the work. Of course, I want to hear from you on the program. Check out the chat here. You can get on in. There is the link. You can use your phone or your laptop and get in on the conversation. Let's see. Welcome back. Thank you, Benny and David Terry. Hope you're well. Rays bats are on fire. What's up, Jay? The Canes avoid the sweep. What up, Jay Bird? Bart Hill, my guy. Thank you, buddy. We were just talking about you the other day over at Ian's Place, Bart. You've always supported us, and we thank you very, very much, my friend. But let's start off with the exciting part of what we're seeing here in the Tampa Bay area. And no, we'll get to the Rays in a second. They play tonight. We'll get to that in the second kind of segment here. Buccaneer OTAs. It's just like one of those things where I had this conversation with somebody yesterday when we were talking about football, right? I think sometimes when we're talking about football, it gets to be a lot when you're just talking about kind of like who's going to win. And, it's a fun conversation to have. But to me, right now we're in the middle of the Stanley Cup final. We're in the Stanley Cup playoffs, the NBA playoffs. We got college baseball coming down the stretch. Like there's a lot of things to get into. So we're not just going to talk about kind of the same old mundane NFL topics if there's nothing there. Well, Bucks OTAs and NFL OTAs, that's something that's there. And it's exciting. And it makes us think that it makes us feel that we're getting in closer and closer to the NFL season. And we're looking at some of the guys that were at camp today and some of the guys that weren't at camp today. And there was a good number of people that were there. And one of the big names that we saw was Baker Mayfield. And for him to be there, I think is so key for him and also some of the young guys like, Emeka Ibuka and also Tez Johnson, some of these younger guys that he needs to build a rapport with, right? Baker's out there. It's a good message. Now, listen, if a guy's not there, it's voluntary, right? These are voluntary OTAs and there's 8 of them. And the first 2 are open, or 2 of them are open to the public. And I know a lot of our media guys are over there today. I couldn't get over there because I had to be here for the program. But I think certain guys, it's more important for them to be there than not, right? So like Tristan Wirfs wasn't there today, and Luke Gedeke wasn't there today. Hassan Reddick wasn't there today. Like, does it matter if they're not there today? Like, is it the worst thing in the world? No, I don't think so. I just think when you're a guy, you want Tristan Wirfs and Luke Gedeke to be as healthy as possible, Hassan Reddick to be as healthy as possible. Stay off your feet for as long as you can. Not the biggest deal. But for a guy like Baker Mayfield, knowing that you're the leader of the club, knowing that even just a couple of passes today, you just start that work. You start that rapport. You start that chemistry with some of these wide receivers. And even off the field, just Baker being there. When you're the quarterback and you're going and you're just, you're saying hi to guys, you're shaking hands, like that goes a long way. It really does. And you look at situations in the past, and we've looked at guys like Aaron Rodgers and him not being there. And listen, if he's going to be the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers this season, like the fact that he's still not even signed with the team, like now's the time you want to start building that rapport, especially if you're new. Like Baker knows the majority of the guys. Of course, there's a bunch of young guys out there, but that's not really a recipe for success. Baker has done so many right things here in Tampa since he's been here. And again, I was one of the guys that was like, all right, well, because I was under the impression that Kyle Trask was going to get a chance. So I thought that instead of Baker, that a guy like Jacoby Brissett would be better because he could start, he could back up, he wouldn't, bitch and moan if he didn't win the job. And you look at a guy like Kyle Trask who would get that opportunity to go forward, and he never did. They ended up going with Baker, and they had a competition. Whatever. Even though I didn't agree with it at the time as far as like going into that, Baker's won me and everybody else over. He has deserved every, accolade that he's gotten with the Buccaneers, every, acknowledgement that this guy is the right guy to lead this team. And doing little things like this goes a very, very long way. For him to be able to be out there with his club, it's a great thing. Now, looking at some of the other guys that are out there too, Desmond Watson and Shiloh Sanders. We talked about them here in the last couple of weeks over at rookie, after rookie minicamp. There's a lot of people that want Dez to make the team. There's a lot of people that want Shiloh to make the team. And it seems like there's a really, really good chance from the more and more people I talk to. And because we put some of this stuff up on social media, a lot of people are asking about Shiloh. Do you think he has a real chance to make the team? Well, I look at that safety spot and you look at some of the guys that, are no longer there. Jordan Whitehead not being there anymore. Does he have a chance? Do you have a chance to be able to make this team? I think he does. And I think that there is an appreciation of the way that he's very vocal And of course, the pedigree is there. For a lot of the discussion about what is wrong and why people shy away from the Sanders, the sons of the dad and all this different stuff. Like, I get that to an extent, but there's also a positive that comes from that too, for those people that are on that negative aspect, right? Like, if that's what you believe and I don't want any part of Shiloh because of his dad, like his dad's not here anymore. So you should let that go. There's also a big time positive of being a player's son, knowing what it takes to be successful in this league. And I think when you look at what Shiloh was able to do, being there for Shedeur throughout him not getting drafted and just Shiloh constantly being like out of the spotlight, I think guys like that they always have a chip on their shoulder. They always have something to prove. It's almost similar to guys that get drafted later on, like we saw with Tom Brady and other guys throughout all of sports, guys that don't, he didn't get drafted. So I don't know if a guy like that is going to be resting on his laurels going into camp, right? He's going to come in here and I think he's going to fight. And he said he'll do whatever it takes to make the team, whether it's playing special teams. And up here, I think that the kid is going to be leaps and bounds, beyond other guys in that similar spot. And hey, who's to say that his physical attributes don't eventually catch up? Sometimes, these guys mature at different levels. Like obviously his brother was one of the better quarterbacks in the country last year and he was drafted and some people thought he was going to go higher than he actually did. But, some guys develop at different speeds, at different rates. So I'm excited. I hope he does make the team. It does, when you look at Dez, a big guy, his weight is something that you certainly have to control. There's certain tasks that these professional athletes get given, and this is before they even get a chance to really like step on the field and really crack the lineup. And we've seen in the past, right? Go out and go work on your weight. That is a goal. If this is a guy that wants to be taken seriously as a football player, he needs to really put a lot of energy and a lot of focus into that. Whether people don't want to make a big deal out of it or not, it's something that he has to do it. Like nobody's ever really played that big. And it's for his health too, right? Like that's the most important thing is his health. So I'm excited. I really think this is the right team for both of those guys to go to too, because you have a guy like Todd Bowles that is a consummate professional. You have the group around him that is going to put these guys in a position to succeed. And it's just a bunch of winners. There's a bunch of veterans out there and leaders, right? So if you're one of these young guys, you're not looking around, and I've seen this in other sports. And listen, we have a lot of former Tampa Bay athletes that have gone into the pros. And I've talked to guys that have gotten drafted, in baseball and football, and they come back and they go, Coach, man, I just didn't know what I was doing. Nobody around knew what we were doing. It was just very disorganized. And then you go to certain places and they're like, man, they were top notch. And the Buccaneers are that type of franchise, are that organization. When people go there, you look at them and you go like, people aren't walking away from there going, these guys don't know what the hell they're doing. I've heard that from other organizations throughout sports. The Bucs are certainly not one of them. Greg Allman also let us know Christian Izzian there, but watching from the sidelines, finished last year with a pec injury. Antoine Winfield Jr., also another guy that was at OTA workouts. That is a really good sign as well. Kalijah Cansey was also out there. So Bucky Irving, Rashad White, that's a lot of these veterans that are out there. And we saw something over the weekend where Rashad White posted something on his Instagram saying that this could be his final go around here in Tampa. Now, could it be? Yes. Will other teams out there give him an opportunity to start? Yeah, they could. There's a lot to like about Rashad White's game. But in no way does this mean that the Buccaneers should try to move on from Rashad White. And I think as the year goes on, that might change. You need numbers at that position. You guys have heard me talk about this before when it comes to football. There's certain positions where you need numbers because you rotate. Wide receiver, defensive back, defensive line, running back, right? Numbers at the quarterback spot, do you need numbers? If your starting quarterback goes down, you're probably screwed anyway, right? Do you need numbers at the offensive line? You do, but it's very, very in case of injury. Ideally, you could have 5 or maybe 6 or 7 guys, but you don't need like a bunch of numbers. The running back spot, a guy's not going to tilt the rock every single time in the game. And listen, Bucky Irving, he got banged up last year. People don't really want to talk about this because they don't want to. It's a little bit of an awkward conversation, but like we were there, like we were watching these games. Like Bucky Irving, what was it? He had an ankle off, something with his foot, something with his knee. Like there was a couple of different knocks that he took throughout the season. So why would we want to get rid of a guy for Rachaad White? And the NFL is not the sport where you're going to get a haul back. This isn't baseball. This isn't basketball. This isn't hockey. Like football, you get you don't get multiple picks. You don't get multiple pieces. You don't get prospects. Like football's completely different. So don't look at this situation with Rachaad White and thinking like, oh yeah, I can't wait to see, what kind of return we're going to get in the trade. I'm sorry, Dylan. I know you just said that, buddy. You want to be able to stack as many good players as you can on your team because you don't know what's going to happen. I was just thinking back to the Super Bowl team in 2020 and just thinking about some of the veterans that they had on that team. The Jason Pierre-Paul, the Ndamukong Suh, the Rob Gronkowski, the Antonio Brown. Like you just had multiple guys like that went with some of the other guys you had, right? That went with the Shaq Barrett, that went with the Vita Vea, that went with the Chris Godwin and the Mike Evans, right? Leonard Fournette, you had him there, right? So like, it's not just your top tier guys. It's not just your rookies. It's not just your veterans. Like the best teams can beat you in a multitude of ways, but also have a litany of guys that you can throw out there. So for a guy like Rachaad White, let's not be so quick because Bucky's not the biggest guy. He runs hard. And like, do you have complete faith that he's going to play 17 games this season? I don't. And that's okay. That's okay. But I think the Buccaneers need to be smart this year, whether it's Josh Grizzard or Todd Bowles, just the team as a whole. Make sure that everybody is getting some touches in the backfield. And Liam Cohen said this early last year. That's why I thought it was very ironic that, eventually he got to a point where he was deploying 3 different running backs. But remember, Sean Tucker was NFC Offensive Player of the Week that week against the Saints. So I bet you going into last season, nobody saw that coming. Maybe not even Sean Tucker himself. So let's make sure when you're looking at situations like that with those guys, we need those guys healthy. We need as many of them as possible. And I know Josh Grizzard, Adam Slavon from our friends over at Pewter Report just wrote a story, and he just posted, ironically enough. There is room for all 3 running backs in the Buccaneers running game. Beautiful. Beautiful. Here's a kind of a check on everything so far. OTAs voluntary, $10 not in attendance today. This is from our pal Greg Allman. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Tristan Wirfs, Luke Gedeke, Vita Vea, Hassan Reddick, Levante David, Greg Gaines, Clark Haggard, Sue Opeta, then Pratt, Klein, Zanzi, Izzy, and McLaughlin present but not practicing. That's a good chunk of the guys that are out there. And the beautiful thing about this, and again, it's a lot about perspective. It's a lot about narrative. None of those guys that are out, like there's no cause for concern whatsoever. Nobody's like, I can't believe Evans isn't out there. I can't believe Godwin's not out there. Is he holding out? Like none of that discussion is going on right now. Nothing, which is a beautiful thing because so much of it, and I was having this conversation with somebody at the Ding and Terry Cafe yesterday about Aaron Rodgers and about every single offseason. That is a narrative when it comes to the National Football League. Somebody talking about Aaron Rodgers, myself included. Like, that's the way it goes. But those kind of things, like, it's very rare for teams to be successful when you have that type of, foolishness going on. There's that type of, I don't want to say, it could be distractions. Like, we don't know. But that type of stuff that's going on, like, that doesn't help your team. It is so hard to win in the National Football League when everything is going well, when everybody's on the same page. Like, look at a team like the Carolina Hurricanes in hockey. Like, they won last night. They avoided the sweep. Like, they're one of those teams. Like, they don't have any issues, like no real drama. I mean, I guess a little bit with Mikko Rantanen, but they were able to move on from him and to be able to get a trade with Dallas, and they were able to move on. But, like, I'm talking about before the season, like, there's no bitching and moaning. There's no craziness when it comes to the Carolina Hurricanes. Like, they fire on all cylinders. They got a great coach. They have a really good team, but I think they're overrated. But you know what I'm saying? Like, that is a team that goes into every season, the last 5 seasons, thinking that they're a cup contender. So, and they can't even come through. And like they did last night to stave off elimination, I still think they lose that series to the Florida Panthers, but it is hard enough to win when you don't have the distractions, when you have everybody on board. So for teams like the Pittsburgh Steelers, if they're putting their chips all in with a guy like Aaron Rodgers, like I just don't, it's weird. I'm kind of stunned that Mike Tomlin would be okay with something like that. But luckily for us here in the Tampa Bay area, we don't have to worry about that when we talk about our Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Not the only thing to be positive right now here in Tampa Bay, and that is our Tampa Bay Rays. These guys are on fire. A win over the weekend. No, not just a win, multiple wins. A sweep of the Blue Jays, and then last night, a win over the Minnesota Twins. I actually went to the game Saturday night, which was great. To be able to go there with my buddy Jay Evans and his lovely wife Christy to see that game. I mean, Vladdy hit the home run, but the Rays were able to win. It was pretty cool all the way around. I saw Dave Randorf at the game as well. He's going to join us on the program tomorrow. 6 straight wins for the Tampa Bay Rays. And you just look at what they're doing right now to contribute to the victory. It's really a little bit of everything. And this is the perfect time. And I told you guys on Friday, right? Told you on Friday that this was the time that you wanted to see the Rays kick it into gear. Now is the time that you wanted to see this team. All right, the excuses are in the past. You're used to playing at at Steinbrenner Field now. No more. No more. Right now, take the bull by the horns and go, go, go. And going and doing it against the Toronto Blue Jays, that's the reason why I said it was so important, is you do that, you vault yourself up to the second place in the AL East. That's exactly what they did. And also, you're doing it before you're getting some of the reinforcements back. Some of the guys in the field. You're getting Ha-Seong Kim. What can he do, right? Good start for him down during his rehab stint. What can you do before you get back some of the reinforcements in the outfield, like DeLuca and getting Palacios, and what happens with Shane McClanahan when he comes back, and right. So you're looking at this team. You want to be able to kind of figure out before these guys come back, and when that happens, it's almost like you're making a trade, and those guys added into your lineup, into your rotation, into your bullpen. This is what happens. You just keep churning, and you keep going. You keep playing the right way. And listen, that's what they're doing. They're doing the little things. They're putting the ball in play. Chandler Simpson, this guy just keeps hitting. He is a threat. Just to watch him, you can tell right now that when Chandler Simpson is at the plate, that the other team, it's like their radar is going off. Everybody knows what that guy is about. Like he is. I said this the other day. Every AB for Chandler Simpson is must see. And it's not just as a fan. It's not just as a person that's like covering the team or following the team. Like the other dugout is watching this guy and going, what is he doing? We got to make sure. If there was a play the other day that it was just a normal ground ball to second base, and the second baseman, I forgot who it was. Oh, it was Clement. Clement fielded the ball and threw it so quickly on a routine ground ball because he knew he didn't want to get into a position where he was trying to beat Chandler Simpson with his arm. You just get rid of that ball so fast. And it's fun because you just never know what's going to happen. And that there's the relentlessness about the Rays. And we were wondering last week, would Kevin Cash kind of blowing up a little bit, would that help his team and spur them on to continue to play good baseball? And it has. It really has. And stuff like that means something. Right? If I was a guy that came on the air every day and I was yelling every single time, right? This is part of the reason why people get, you look at a guy like Stephen A. Smith, right? A lot of people don't like Stephen A. because they think he yells all the time, right? Christopher Magdal Russo, the same thing. Like it wears on people. It's over and it's incessant. Doesn't mean they're not talented. Doesn't mean don't know what they're talking about, but it's one of the things that wears on you. It's just a lot. It's a lot. But if you do it once in a while, if you do it when it really means something, when it's something that really gets you fired up, when it really something that really grinds your gears, it's impactful. It stands out because it's not disingenuous. It's real. We understand as human beings that you have a whole range of emotions. You get high, you get low. It's hard to stay even keel. We've seen these three coaches here in the Tampa Bay area. When you look at a guy like when you look at a guy like John Cooper and you look at Todd Bowles and when you look at Kevin Cashel, I'll throw Joe Urso in there. When they were able to come back to save their season 2 weeks ago against Mississippi College after being down 8-1, I looked in the dugout. And I saw Joe Urso and I saw Sammy Militello, and it was like nothing. It was like a preseason game. They were even keel. Nothing bothered them. And you see the same thing with the Rays, and you see the same thing with the Bucks, and people, want to get on Todd Bowles because he's stoic at times and he doesn't lose his mind when things don't go his way. But Kevin Cash is the same way. So is John Cooper. But when they lose it, man, they go off, and it's inspiring to their team. And it also just makes you realize that they're human beings, right? It happens, but it's impactful because it's not, something that's just created. It's not something that just kind of comes out of something that they were like, all right, this is my plan. I'm going to get pissed off for it. No, they're just a human being. Sometimes like people really, really dig that. Eric Marino, what's up, Jay? The Rays haven't lost since I left for Spain. Prayers to you and yours, my friend. Can they keep it up tonight? I think they will. And if they don't, back to Spain for you, my friend. But you got to feel good for the Tampa Bay Rays. You really do. You're looking at the contributors, and we'll just kind of look back at last night's game. They're scoring these runs, right, at different times throughout the game. And that 13-0 win on Sunday against the Blue Jays was a really good plant your flag into the ground. Like, we're not messing around here. Last night, you go up 3, right? You have the big home run from Jonathan Aranda. This guy's been fantastic. Jonathan Aranda is an all-star this year. I don't know if anybody agrees with me. I think he is. The Twins answer back, right? You want that shutdown inning there in the top of the 7th after he gives up after you get the 3-run home run. Unfortunately, the Rays don't get that. They give up a pair, but then they come back and they don't score. So you're kind of a little worried going into the 8th inning, right? It's just natural. But they found a way. They stayed with it. They were able to get out of that 8th inning without giving up a run. And you got to tip your hat to Manny Rodriguez. That was a huge inning there in the 8th. And then what do? You come right back in the 8th inning, and then you score your runs. Jose Caballero with the double. Danny Jansen with the home run. What a great catch in the outfield there. I saw a lot of thirsty dudes on social media trying to get that number. But that's what you need. You need Caballero. You need Danny Jansen, right? 13 hits for the Rays last night. Every single hitter in the starting lineup had a hit last night. I mean, you're not going to get one guy hitting 30 home runs and driving in 150. Or maybe get 30. I don't know if you're going to get a guy hitting 50 home runs and driving in $140. It's not happening. You need contributions from everybody. So Chandler Simpson with a knock. Lau gets 2. Kemi gets 2. Aranda gets 2. Curtis Mead with a hit. He's swinging the bat a little bit better. Meisner with a couple hits. And then you get 1 hit from Caballero, Jansen, and Morel. Batting average is looking a little better. That's what you need. Contributions from everybody. Talk about on the pitching side, like Johnny Holstaff. Like, you need your offense if you don't have a ton of guys that are going to be, big time 1,000 OPS guys. You need a little bit of everything. So I love what I'm seeing for the Tampa Bay Rays. They're doing it the right way. They're going about it in the right way. And when you have a guy like Kevin Cash, he's not going to freak out at all. How about the USF Bulls baseball? Enjoyed you and Derek Sharp on the call. Thank you, Benny. I appreciate that. I had a really good time with Derek Sharp on the call for USF against ECU, and ECU went on to eventually win the American Athletic Conference Championship. Tough because they started out with a 4-0 lead, and unfortunately they couldn't hold it. They lose to ECU there in the quote unquote semifinals, but a fantastic year for Mitch Hannes and USF. I don't know what the expectations were going into the season, year 1 with him. I think he exceeded them. You're talking about a team that didn't even make the conference tournament last year, and they came in 3rd this year. And they were one of the last 3 teams standing, with ECU, who won, Tulane, who's won the last 2. The green and gold, the Bulls Nation should be very proud and excited to see what the future holds. They just got a big-time commitment last week from Tweedy, who is one of the best right-handed pitchers in the Tampa Bay area. I'm very excited. He went to Strawberry Crest with my guy, Eric Beatty. I'm jacked up, man. I'm really, really excited to see what the future holds for USF, because I know he's the right guy at the helm, the right guy to lead. Very, very excited to see what he's got, in store when he gets his own guys in there. All right, let's bring him in. Tampa's own. This guy is a hitting machine. I mean, I don't know what you ate for dinner this year, brother, but whatever you were doing, it was working. It's our pal Nick Rodriguez, Missouri State standout and former Jesuit Tiger. What's going on, brother? How are you?
How you doing, man? Appreciate you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Did you tell the family that you were coming on with me today?
No, not yet, but I'm going to send them a text for sure.
Yeah. Well, we'll be up on the channel anyway, and I'll put it out on social. I know Coach Miguel's probably watching here too, man. So how are things, man? I mean, what a season for you. What a career that you have. But how do you kind of put into words? Because every time, like I kept seeing on social media, like 25 game hitting streak, 30. What you were seeing the ball so well. What was working well for you this season?
Yeah, I think, if you look at it from a baseball side, my approach, I kind of dialed in my approach offensively a little bit. I started understanding how pitchers were going to attack me, what they wanted to do to get me out, and just kind of playing the game with inside the game. And our coach talks a lot about that, and just kind of taking it one pitch at a time. How are you going to get your pitch and hit it hard, basically? And, I got a little lucky throughout the year, but some of it, it was really cool to see, the year come together, and the year I had end up the way it did, because it didn't really start that way. So
yeah, you'll take it, man. You'll take it away. It's unbelievable. I want to go back. Let's go back to the Tampa days and playing at Jesuit, and obviously saw you play many games there. But just when you look at Jesuit high school and you look at the Tigers and playing for Coach Miguel, just what was that experience like, and how did that get you ready for the next level?
Yeah. You don't really realize how special it is until you leave. I think what Coach Miguel has built at Jesuit is something that you don't really get anywhere else in the country, especially in high school. Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was the culture aspect of it. We were such a tight knit group. I mean, those are some of my best friends still to this day. And we wanted to win for each other, and we wanted to play for each other, and that was the biggest thing. I think going to college, you don't always see a culture and a standard that is set the way it is at Jesuit, and it's really cool I'm blessed to be able to be a Jesuit baseball alumni for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. So take everybody through your process from Jesuit to today. Take everybody, because it's a winding road, right? It's never, I always say, like, progress isn't one of those things where every step is forward and sometimes you have a step back. So for those just joining us that don't know about your journey, take us through from Jesuit to where you're at today.
Yeah, so I played 3 years on varsity at Jesuit. I won a state title in 2019, I think. And then, from Jesuit, I didn't have too much college offers. I ended up taking a walk-on at Charleston Southern. It was my only opportunity for Division I baseball, and I took it. Charleston Southern, I was blessed to get the opportunity to play there. Some of my best friends play there, and I didn't start the first half of the season. Second half of the season, I played really well, and a lot of the guys started transferring, the coaching staff. There was a lot of, rumors that they were going to leave, and so I decided that it was best for me to go in the transfer portal and see what I can do with the limited playing time I had. And so basically just send email to all the schools in the country pretty much. And
how many emails did you send?
I think I probably sent around 100.
Man, you were grinding, brother. You were grinding.
Yeah, my dad helped me out a lot with that, which was nice. But Missouri State reached out. At first, I didn't even know where or who Missouri State was, which I think a lot of people in Tampa would say that.
Right.
And got on the phone with now head coach. He was the hitting coach at the time, Joey Hawkins, and he was one of the only coaches that we sat down and he set a plan on how we were going to develop me, how we were going to get more power out of me. And Yeah, it was a perfect opportunity for me to go in and play immediately. And so I didn't really want to be that far from home, but I think I took a chance on Hawk and the coaching staff that I believe they could help develop me. And yeah, I played 3 years at Missouri State, 1 year at shortstop, and then my last two at second base. And I loved every second of it. It was this place changed my life, and I'm grateful for this place.
Yeah, no doubt. And you said your dad. I've always loved your dad because his name is Doug, just like my dad.
Yeah.
So your parents have, and just talk about that too, because that's what I love. Going back to Jesuit and just even being here in the Tampa Bay area, Nick, like watching you for many, many years, even pre-Jesuit days, and how important family is, right? And I get that semblance of when you're around Miguel, you're around Coach Louie and Coach Nolan, everybody, just all the parents. Like it's not just the kids, it's not just the players, and it's the brothers and sisters, right? It's everybody.
Yeah,
and
sure.
just how important your family is to you, and just how instrumental they've been in this entire process.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely could say with confidence I would not be in the position I am without them. They've sacrificed so much, pretty much from the start of my baseball career, to put me in a position to be successful. And they've made a lot of sacrifices for me, especially these last couple years with me being so far from home. They've definitely made it a priority to come out and see me, come make weekend series and whatnot. And yeah, I mean, geez, they've put me in a position to be successful, and they've always been kind of the rock in my just the ups and downs of the seasons. I can always rely on them to be there for me. I know regardless if I go 0 for 5 or 5 for 5, they're going to still love me the same way. So it's nice to know I have a support system like that in my life, and I'm really lucky for it.
Nick, how important is, because you bet on yourself, you know what I mean? Like, and trust me, you know it as well as I do. When you're at Jesuit, you see so many guys getting D1 offers, you see guys getting drafted. You were a guy that's like, and I tell you what, man, I've many, Miguel told me a long time ago, it's like, Nick's the guy to watch. Nick's the guy to watch. He would tell me, he's like, this guy just hits. This guy comes up with big play after big play after big play, and you don't get the offers. And then, you go to Charleston Southern, and then you go into the transfer portal, you send the emails. How important is that to have that confidence, right? Like, what is that from your parents? Is that something that you just have inside of you? Because a lot of people just give up. A lot of people will look at the situation going, I don't have any offers. I'll go do something else. Or, man, Charleston Southern's not working out. Maybe I'll do something else. Like, what about, your kind of inner strength has helped you in these situations to be able to be where you're at right now?
Yeah, I actually think about this a lot because I think one of the biggest blessings that I had in my baseball career was playing at Jesuit. And I think the biggest reason for that is I was never the top dog. I was never the guy. And when you get to college, you kind of start to understand that pretty much every single guy that walks into that locker room was the guy at one point in high school. And, I'm not saying that I wasn't, a part of the team and play a lot, but there was always these guys that, we're getting draft hype, we're getting all these D1 offers. And so I kind of had that chip on my shoulder from the beginning, walking into college, where I wasn't ever the guy in high school. So I need to prove that I'm the guy in college. And it kind of just set the precedent for how I need to work going forward, and how much I need to get better to get to where I want to be. And I think for every single college baseball player, you got to believe in yourself before it even matters if anyone else believes in you. And I think if you have that confidence going into it, it's never going to be easy, but you got to believe in yourself, and you got to believe what you're capable of, and you got to go out there and work and do it.
Yeah, especially in baseball, right? It's such a game of failure. And
Yeah.
I had this growing up when I was playing, and had guys that would play other sports, and they'd go 0 for 4 or something. They'd be so upset, and they're like, "Why aren't you upset?" I'm like, "I'm pissed. Don't get me wrong, but like, we're gonna play tomorrow too. So like, you can't
exactly.
we're not giving up. Like, you just can't give up on it." And then this year, right? We talk about the belief. We talk about And then this year, this hitting streak, and I'm just like, that can't be real, right? It's just every single day. You said you need luck, and part of that is happening. But do you get caught up in that stuff at all? Do you get caught up in the number? Because we've seen hitting streaks in college and in the pros, and you get up. Having a 20-game hitting streak is great. When you double that, holy smokes. Did that get in your head at all? Did you it's hard to not, even from the outside, look at it and just like peek at the box score every day to see how you're doing it. But you're the guy that's in the box, right? So you look at certain pitches like, I got to hit that. Does that go into the game plan at all? Or do you just kind of like go as, just play the game as it's supposed to be played?
Yeah. People have asked me about it a lot. It is, as much as I try not to think about it, it is impossible to not think about it. Especially when you're walking up to the plate, you're 0 for 3 on the day. It's the 7th inning, could be your last at bat, and you're kind of in the back of your head, oh, I need to get a hit here. But it's just about the process, and I get into the box every time, one pitch at a time, one at bat at a time, and going about it that way helped me a lot, kind of take my mind off the hit streak. I didn't really put too much pressure on myself with the hit streak, but it's hard to not think about it and put pressure on yourself in that scenario. But I didn't really start thinking about it till 30. And my mom brought it up to me and I started thinking about it a little bit, but it's just about playing the game within the game and just, one pitch at a time, one at bat at a time, and going out there and competing, which is what I've been doing all year. And, just going out there attacking, hitting strikes hard and try not to chase. And that's what I did. And it seemed to work out a little bit for me.
Hell yeah, man. All right. So before I let you go, Nick, what's next for you, man? I know a lot of people want to know, like they're going to be following you and seeing what's next for Nick Rodriguez, man, because the whole city's behind you here in the 813, that's for sure.
Yeah. Right now, I'm kind of taking it easy. I'll probably start hitting in the next couple days, waiting for the draft and see what happens with the draft, and hopefully goes my way and I'll keep playing. So that's the goal.
Yeah, and listen, even if you don't get drafted, man, there's plenty of ways through the journey.
For sure.
You bet on yourself like you have in the past, and I know you're going to be successful. Well, Nick, thank you so much for your time, brother. It has been a joy to watch your college career. After seeing what you did here in the Bay Area, you are a great example for everybody here in the Bay Area. Like, hey, if it doesn't go your way, doesn't mean you pout and cry and take your bat and your ball and you go home. You just continue to grind. Thank you again for your time. Say hello to mom and dad for me. I'm sure I'll see them around. I always see your dad at like random places, random games throughout the Tampa Bay area. But yes, tell them I said hello. Continue success, brother. I'll be in touch. And thanks for your time. Great job this year in your entire career. We'll talk soon, buddy. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, buddy. Nick Rodriguez. My God, man. What a crazy career for him. And listen, you look at Jesuit High School. There are so many good players that have come out of there, and so many guys. We see it right now. Wilson Anderson and Caden Wechter. Wilson's throwing 98 miles an hour. Caden Wechter, our buddy Doug's son. Those are two guys, Mississippi State and Florida State. They're going there unless they get drafted, but there's a great chance they're both going to get drafted. But Nick, I'm telling you, Miguel brought him up multiple times to me. When he was still at Jesuit, Nick's the guy, just does everything the right way. And, when you look at a guy like Nick Rodriguez, as much as you want to talk about the baseball side of it, if you're a guy like that and that is your mode of operation, that's how you deal with failure. That's how you deal with setbacks and obstacles. You're going to be successful in whatever endeavor you just choose to go down, whatever avenue you go down, whether it's baseball or anything. So I'm just excited to see what the future holds, and if he gets drafted, when he gets drafted, because I think he will. And even if he doesn't, he's one of those guys that's an undrafted guy that'll find his way, fly up through the ranks, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was playing in the big leagues one day. That would be pretty damn cool to see. All right, our guy Sam Militello will join us here in a moment. We'll get him here on the program. Oh no, I don't have him at 12:45. I have him at 1:45. Did I mess it up? Hold on. Hold on. Let me get. No, Ian joins us next at 1:00. Okay. I thought I had Sammy because Sammy popped on for a bit. I was like, wait a second. It's 12:45. Like, no, it's at 1:45. Update on UT softball. Let's bring that in. 3-0 UT Tyler. No bueno there. So bottom of the 6th. It's another hit. Are they going to get her? Bases loaded. 1 out. Bottom of the 6th. UT softball losing 3-0. They're going to need a big comeback if they're going to win that one. So baseball side, Sammy joins us at 1:45. Again, we mentioned USF baseball, USF golf. Unfortunately, their season ended. They struggled down the stretch, but what a great job that they did this year, Coach Steve Bradley. Another note from Bucks OTAs today. Servassier Dennis picked off Baker Mayfield in OTA work today. That is a huge, huge thing for the Buccaneers. If there is one concern for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going into this season, for me, I'm looking at the linebacker play. I know you bring in Walker from Miami. I know you didn't address that position in the draft, where you're wondering, Passer, Schlesinger, Jahad Campbell, right? Those were the 3 names in multiple rounds that people were looking at. Could we see a linebacker get drafted for the Bucs? That was a big discussion, right? With that first round pick at 19. Well, that's not the direction that they went, but it doesn't mean that everybody. I mean, look at Levante David, right? Is this his last season? Could be. I feel like we've been having this conversation for the last couple of years because we have. But is Servassier Dennis going to be that guy? Because as much as we like what we've seen from Servassier Dennis, there's a couple of things we need to be, clear on. He hasn't been 100% healthy, not at all. And also, and I know it doesn't always matter when it comes to draft position, but this guy wasn't, we're not talking about a first-round pick. We're not talking about a can't-miss prospect either. So from what we've seen in limited action, we've liked, but you got to be able to hold up through a 17-game season. And even if you can, sometimes like your play doesn't get better, right? Or it does, right? So you look at a guy like Devin White. Let's not forget, as much as Devin White really became kind of the butt of the joke down the stretch, this was a guy early on that was like, after they won that Super Bowl, people were picking Devin White to be the NFC Defensive Player of the Year, or overall NFL Defensive Player of the Year. So sometimes the cliff, right? It's just you definitely don't want that. You definitely don't want that. So I really hope that Servassier Dennis is the guy. And listen, if there's one team that can find an undrafted free agent, a guy that, was able to contribute and you really didn't think, it's the Buccaneers. And that is why I look at Jason Light and his crew. And I for some reason, people always want to crap on the Buccaneers for, all right, well, they lost this guy and this team. And they were saying that after they lost Canales. Oh, is Baker Mayfield going to really be able to take that next step because Canales was gone? Like, were you watching the Bucs? What are we even talking about here? People are saying the same thing now about Liam Cohen, right? People are saying we're worried about, Liam Cohen leaving, Josh Grizzard. Okay. It's just really lazy narrative when it comes to these teams and, these guys. And I don't know. The Bucs are just going to continue to go out there and do their thing. And listen, I know we don't really know what these teams are going to be until we get closer and closer to week 1. But looking at the Falcons, looking at the Panthers, looking at the Saints, are you really concerned with these teams in the NFC South? I'm not. I'm happier to see what the Buccaneers have got going on and making sure that they can get to the pass and just being better on the defensive side of the ball. And I want to take you guys back. I want to play something. This is from Rick Stroud. This is something that I posted earlier today. It was something that I cut up, but I want to play for you guys. The impact of Hassan Reddick. Let me see real quick, guys. The impact of a guy like Hassan Reddick. Because I think bringing in this guy, and this is the reason why I wanted them to be able to go out there and be able to get a Trey Hendrickson or something like that, because getting a guy that can rush the passer is going to help you in so many different areas. This is what Rick had to say. I asked him, like, what are you optimistic, pessimistic? How do you feel about this Buccaneer pass rush? Here's what Rick had to say. What gives you optimism or pessimism about this pass rush going into 2025?
Well, look, I think Hassan Reddick's going to make really good players out of those other guys. I mean, look, when he was humming, and I still think he has plenty in the tank. What they're betting on, he had that trade to the Jets, and he wanted a new contract, and he held out. They look at that year as a wash. But before that, Jay, this guy was one of the top pass rushers in the game, and he's motivated, right? Guys are getting $30 million now. He's 30 years old, so he's not the youngest player in the world, but he feels like he still has another contract in him. So he's absolutely going to be something that defenses have to account for. And really, they should be able to have an outside pass rush when you got those two guys inside and Cansey and Vita Vea pushing the pocket like that. So I look for Yaya to take a step up. He got a lot of attention last year. He got a lot of chips and a lot of tight ends and guys coming from him in all directions. And that takes an adjustment. But with Reddick on that side, he'll probably get more one-on-one pass rushes. And look, they love the guys that they took in this draft. I mean, they really do. This Walker kid, David Walker from Central Arkansas, is a special pass rusher. And I know he did it at the lower level. But what you want to see is a guy that dominates at that level. And he did that. I think that, they've got some other guys. I think Elijah Roberts, was a premier pass rusher at SMU. You probably saw him play against the Bulls a few times. Before that, he was in Miami. He stepped it up, and he's got versatility. He can play inside, one of those inside positions on the defensive line, as well as rush. So they've got to get something going with some of those young guys. And Braswell has to improve, right? He has to improve his second year. That's when you're going to see the biggest growth. I thought his last 5 games were his best. He did get some pressures, but it's all about getting sacks. So what also will help that is to have a little bit better coverage on the outside. They work hand in hand. You've got to lock down some receivers for those guys to get home to the quarterback. So, drafting 2 guys at corner, I think, is going to help them as well.
Boom. And there you go. Our guy, Rick Stroud from the Tampa Bay Times, joining us on the program last week. And I brought this up, and Buckin, thank you so much, 10.5. Here's the question. How many sacks will Hassan Reddick have this season? I think he's going to have 12. I'm going to go with 12. I think he is a guy that is going to contribute in a way where he's just going to make everybody around him better. I don't know if I've been, because you kind of compare like yourself to where everybody else is at, right? And shout out to Buckin, 10.5. I'm going to keep this up. How many sacks will Hassan Reddick have this season? I've been one of the more optimistic guys about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the last couple of years. I just feel like they're better than the majority of the teams in their division, and I just think they're built the right way. Offensive line, interior of their defensive line. I'm pretty high on the Bucs this year. I really am. I think that they're going to get 12, 13 wins this year. I think their offense is going to be really good. I think their defense is going to be better, and I think it's going to get better as the year went on. You have a passer, and I love that what did I tell you guys in the beginning of the offseason? Throw as many resources as humanly possible at your defense. And they did. Multiple corners. You get Shiloh, you get Watson, you get Roberts and Walker and Hassan Reddick. Like, you're throwing as many as humanly possible. I am very excited about this Buccaneers defense. I just think they did it the right way. They did it the right way. And now, if you're looking at a team that can rush the passer, I mean, watch out, because there's a lot of other good things too. Let me see. How many sacks will Hassan Reddick have this season? Dolan says 12. Let me see. Nigel just texted me. sure it's horizontal. Nigel getting on. All right, let's see. How many sacks for the Bucks? Let's see. David Terry, 8.5. Okay. Mario says sacks at force fumbles. I'm with you, buddy. I don't know if you guys have been watching Shiloh's videos, but I love these embracing Tampa as a city. Yeah, man. I love that too. I listen, there is a new era of athletes here, not just in Tampa, but just in professional sports as a whole, right? Like, there's going to be more and more guys. David Terry says 8.5. You're going to see more guys with podcasts and more guys with vlogs. And like, I think maybe in the past it may have been something to worry about, but just that's the modern athlete. Sure. Yeah, Alex Clark. You're right. I missed that with Killer, man. I was watching, and it's funny because the picture that I used for Nigel was a picture, and you see Alex Clark in the background. I missed some of those old Lightning players with Andre Palat, and Pat Maroon was at Monday Night Raw last night with his son. If you watched Monday Night Raw last night, it was really cool to be able to see Bert Kreischer and Tom Segura and Waka Flocka there, and I know our buddy David Shealy from WTSP, Chris Mathis from WDAE was there. That's why we just love this Tampa Bay area. But yeah, going back to what we were saying, and again, I want to hear from you guys. How many sacks will Hassan Reddick have this season? I'm going to go with 12. And I think if he can do that, Chris Braswell can take that next step up. And what's the deal with Yaya Diaby? There's people that look at him and say he could be that next great pass rusher in the league. Sometimes it takes a couple more years. Sometimes you need a little bit of help. I understand that. But we'll see. We'll see. But the more numbers you throw at I don't even want to say problem, but the more people that you throw at a situation like this, again, a position of rotation, a position of you need as many numbers as you can. Put different people out there. We know when it comes to the pass rush, you're going to bring in a guy like Anthony Nelson, right? Nelly's a perfect example. Bring in a guy like that, and he is your fourth or fifth pass rusher. It's all about where guys slot in. We see this a lot when it comes to starting pitchers, when it comes to wide receivers, when it comes to pass rushers. Depending on like what your number is, that goes a long way. Because you can look at a guy and go, like if Anthony Nelson is one of your two starting edge rushers, you're not going to be thrilled with that. But if he's your guy that you come in and plays 15 to 20 plays and gives you max effort, and you know that he's going to be in the right spot, you know that he's going to contain, you know he's not going to over pursue, you know that he's going to be a guy that can defend the run and maybe come up with a clutch play, like that's what you want. Like your fourth and fifth starters in your rotation, you know that, all right, those guys aren't going to probably be high strikeout guys. Those are going to be guys that are going to pitch to contact a little bit more, but you need to make sure that those guys can throw strikes and don't tax your bullpen and stay healthy and just give you innings and just eat as many innings as humanly possible. Wide receiver, we've seen this a lot. It's a lot different when guys go from wide receiver 3 to wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 1. Like the defense changes, the coverage changes. So when you get guys, and I know one of the big things I see on social media, this video comes up a lot of my thing is a guy like a Rashad McCants, basketball player, fantastic at North Carolina, decent player in the league. But he says, if I would have played, I only played this many minutes, but if I had twice as many minutes, I'd have twice as many points. That's not the way it works, man. That's not always the way it works. You can't always extrapolate things like that. If he gets this many snaps, he'll have this many sacks. It's not the way it works, man. Sometimes guys do better with a smaller sample size. And it's funny because after he said that, DeMarcus Cousins, made borderline Hall of Famer in the NBA, hell of a player. He kind of looked at him like, that's not the way it works, dog. That's just because you get more minutes doesn't mean you're going to get more points. And if you get more minutes, the defense might be guarding you a little bit different. Sometimes they kind of let you do your thing. You're a bench scorer. You're a guy that's a third or fourth option. They're going to leave you open a little bit more, right? Jalen Brunson gets guarded a lot differently with the Knicks than he did with the Dallas Mavericks, right? When you're a guy that's coming off the bench and you're a guy that people are looking at like, all right, Luka's not in there. Now Jalen Brunson can exhale a little bit. Like, it's not the same now. You're the number one option for the New York Knicks. Big game tonight, game 4. Let's see if they can even up the series. Speaking of Indiana, we'll bring him in. A great Hoosier, the one and only Ian Beckles. You agree with that, man, as far as like guys getting, snaps, more snaps? Because, again, Rashad McCants saying like, oh, if I would have played 15 more minutes, I would have averaged 23. And DeMarcus Cousins, all-star, is looking at him like, that's not the way it works, dog. You've seen that, I'm sure, in your career too, where a guy, if I got more snaps, there's a reason why you don't get more snaps, right?
Yeah, I like the take, and some people may think it might equate to that, but it doesn't work that way. A great example is like a defensive lineman. If a defensive lineman plays 15 plays and has a certain amount of sacks, if he plays twice as many plays, doesn't mean he's gonna have twice as many sacks because he'll be that much more worn out. I mean, if you took me as an offensive lineman, you go, Ian, you're gonna play 15 plays. Boy, I can go all out. Like, I mean, I love when the average person says he has to go 110%. Well, you see how many plays in a row you can go 110%. But if you could only play 15 plays, you might be able to go full out. But if you have to play 60 plays, you better reserve yourself at times. So the equation is it's not quite that even. I thought it was a good take.
Yeah, for sure. And, you see that more and more. And the NBA is the only sport that has that stat, I'm pretty sure, where, all right, this many points per 48. And it's just like, well, nobody's playing 48 minutes. And if you're not playing that many minutes, there's a reason. So to have a stat like that, I think it's really kind of, it doesn't really make much sense.
But for somebody not to be playing, the question is, why aren't you playing more? And your liabilities, what is your liabilities leading to while you're scoring these other points?
And it happens with hockey. People are like, oh, he plays 9 to 12 minutes a night. He deserves more. Well, yeah, maybe if he plays more, he's got more of an, a chance of turning the puck over or not playing as well defensively. And you can't be willing to put a guy out there. That's the reason why he only plays that many minutes a night. Bucks OTA started today. Baker Mayfield was out there. How big is it to be able to have? And listen, it's not, and I don't want to ask the other side of it because Tristan wasn't out there. Levante, Mike, Chris, like I know it's voluntary, right? But just the fact that Baker was out there on a day where he didn't necessarily have to be out there, what does that mean to you as far as a guy that just follows the Buccaneers? Again, it's not, if he's not there, it's not the end of the world. But I think it shows some of the younger guys like, hey, our leaders out here.
Well, I mean, like you said, Levante and Tristan not being there, I get it. If Tristan Wirfs being there, Levante David being there won't improve our team. Baker Mayfield being there will improve our team. He's a quarterback. He's the leader. He's the guy everybody's going to look to. Rest Tristan, rest Levante. But Baker needs to be present. And listen, to me, to be a leader, you have to be present. All right? And for him to be that guy, and this is what I love about Baker Mayfield. I kind of saw it with Trent Dilfer at the beginning of his career. He was very childish, and he did some childish things. And, I pulled him over a couple times and talked to him about some things. And then later on in his career, I heard him say how childish he was when he was young. And I heard him say how much he improved and how he became a better teammate. We're watching Baker Mayfield grow up as a man in front of us because he wasn't really a leader, not really, until he got here. But when he's turning into a leader, and if he puts 3, 4, 5 more years like this, we're gonna remember Baker Mayfield anyways. But he's stamping his mark on this community in a positive way.
I feel like Baker has not really made a misstep since he's been here in Tampa Bay. I feel like he's done so many good things on and off the field. I don't think you could have asked for a better union between Tampa Bay and Baker Mayfield.
You're probably right about that. And listen, there's certain NFL players and professional athletes in general, they get evaluated differently. Okay? We thought Jameis Winston was the devil himself for standing on a chair and yelling out something at a time where everybody else is doing it. You know what I mean? Like, your son, if my son did it, smack him in the back of his head. I go, that's stupid. But that's it. You know what I mean? Like, we look at athletes and we look at them as they're bad people when they're 21-year-old kids just doing 21-year-old kid type things. You know what I mean? You look back at Baker Mayfield, he was just immature. That's all. He was just immature and he wasn't ready. You look at the way he was acting in college. He did some immature crap, okay? Really, really immature, all right? You look back at it, he's not going to do that now. He's better than that. So I just like that we sat and watched him develop as a man. And at the end of his career, you know, Tampa Bay is going to be a big part of what he has going on. And I hope he ends his career here, because I hope he stays healthy, because it's kind of nice going into a football season and looking forward, not having to worry about your quarterback.
I think the team as a whole, like I look at this team and they really need to address the defensive side of the ball. Hassan Reddick is a guy that they addressed in free agency. They go draft this Walker kid and Roberts and 2 defensive backs as well. I mean, this team needed to focus on defense, and that's exactly what they're doing. Where are you at as far as optimism when it comes to going into the season? I know the rosters aren't finalized. We have a decent idea of what this team is about, but I mean, you and I have been on the air. You and I have talked about certain years, and we're going into a season. We don't really know what to expect for the Buccaneers, but I feel like this is maybe as stable as this franchise has been for, maybe ever. And you going into the season, I'd be surprised if they didn't make the playoffs. I feel really good about the Bucs going into the season. What say you?
I think I'm positive that they make the playoffs. They have been making the playoffs in some way or another from technicalities, but it is what it is. That's the rules. Offensively, I don't see them taking a step back. That being said, crazy things happen in football. Like Mike Evans is 5 years past being old, okay? Chris Godwin, we don't really know what Chris Godwin's going to be about. He doesn't either. There's a couple question marks, but I really believe if Baker Mayfield stays healthy, we'll be okay offensively. Defensively, every year teams, talk about going out and improving our defense, when the long and short of it is you really have to improve from within, okay? The people that are there, again, got to be better. That's it. We're talking about both inside guys who have all the potential in the world to be the best 2 inside guys in all of football. Do that, all right? Now, they show signs here and there, but let's see some consistency. We got to get some rush from the outside. And the rest of it will just kind of develop with the pass rush. We've always been pretty good at stopping the run. I think they took a little step back last year. I haven't looked at statistically, but they didn't look the same last year stopping the run. But if they can rush that passer, that's the thing. If you can rush the passer, the rest of it's almost irrelevant. If you give me 3 cats that can rush, boy, that makes everybody better around them. And we haven't seen that since, probably Shaq Barrett in his prime, which was about 3 years ago.
Ian, last week during the NFL League meetings, NFL Executive Vice President Troy Vincent announced that a panel of retired offensive linemen will determine which current offensive lineman is named the protector of the year each season. During the announcement, Vincent credited Bills left tackle Deion Dawkins, who's, I don't know if you follow him, Beck, but he is the man. He's awesome. He's a huge hockey fan. He goes to the Sabres games all the time. He's banging on the glass. They credited Deion with getting the ball rolling by noting that there was no postseason award honoring offensive linemen, and Dawkins shared his pride in having a hand in making sure his fellow Brockers will getting. He's so excited that he's just in, even though like he'll be up obviously for contention, but he's so excited that like he was part of them putting this into, like, how cool is that as a former offensive lineman to be able to, I'm sure you're one of those position groups that maybe doesn't always have their voice heard, but this is one of those where not only is your voice heard, but now you're going to get recognition. And you and I speak a lot about Hall of Fame candidacy. This is going to factor into one of the tougher position groups, going forward. As much as all pros and Pro Bowls, you win this is going to be like Defensive Player of the Year and, Offensive Player of the Year and things like that.
Well, with, social media and the internet and all kind of things, I think people know a little bit more now about offensive linemen than they did in the past. Like, we all know the offensive linemen are the smartest people on the field. And listen, we're joking, but that's a literal thing. Like
Yes.
I guess they test the best in the Wonderlic and are just the most intelligent. If you really think about it, Jay, and I have to think about it because I'm coaching football right now at Chamberlain High School. Offensive line may be the most unnatural position in all of sports. You can do every other sport in your driveway. You've never seen anybody offensive lining in your driveway. Okay? It's just not something you do. You can play basketball, you can swing a golf club,
Mhm.
you can swing a baseball, you can throw a base. Nobody walks around, kick stepping, and unless you're a lunatic.
You've
So
seen those, right? You've seen those gender reveals where it becomes
absolutely,
a guy, and then you see the guy doing the best. That's the
absolutely
funny, and the reason why it's so funny because, like you said, it's unnatural. You don't see shit like
correct.
that.
And listen, offensive linemen, and you've heard me joke about it before, but if you really think about it, you could be dumb as a stump and be 6'7" with long arms and put your hand on the ground. I go chase that guy, number 12. Go get him, and we're gonna give you lots of money. It's not deeper than that.
Mhm.
Go get him. Offensive line. No, let's work on your stance. Let's work on your split. Let's work on your angles, your drop step. Then the second foot has to go down the crotch, and your hands placement has to be here. And you have to get your head outside. And on a 70 protection, you got to squeeze. And on a 72 protection, it's a lot. Okay, so you can't do that if you're dumb. Okay, quarterback and offensive lineman, I don't think you can do as you're dumb. I don't think you can be a DB either. And the rest of them, I'm not trying to talk anybody down.
Mhm.
But I'm just saying, I'm happy that offensive linemen are now starting to get recognition. And it used to be like offensive linemen, yeah, they're cool and everything, but now offensive linemen are getting paid more than everybody else because they realize that you can find a good receiver in the draft. It's not that hard, okay?
Mhm.
But to find an offensive lineman in the draft, bro, it is hard to do. And I guess the worth of an offensive lineman. You rarely see offensive linemen even going in free agency. They don't let them go nowhere. If you have a good offensive lineman, you know he's a smart guy, know the system, he stays put. So I'm happy that they're starting to get some recognition, and this award is only something positive, and I'll bet my house Tristan Wirfs wins it if he stays healthy.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that too, because the Giants, they've invested a lot of draft capital in the offensive line, and it just doesn't always work out. I mean, even if you use first round picks, second round picks, it doesn't mean that those guys are going to be good. Like, you have to go to a good situation. You got to have a good coach, and you have to be talented, right? You got to be able to convert. I mean, let's not forget Tristan Wirfs was the 4th tackle taken in the draft back then, right? I mean, you look at what Mekhi Becton did better when he slid to the inside playing with the Eagles, Jedrick Wills and Andrew Thomas, who really struggled out of the gates, then was really good with the Giants, outside of, that was when Tristan, I think Andrew Thomas was the 2nd ranked left tackle the last year Tristan was at right tackle, and then he got hurt. So that's the other thing. Like, guys got to stay healthy too, right?
Correct.
Looking at situations, I look at Atlanta right now, and this is another reason why I feel real confident about the Bucs is like Raheem Morris says today, I didn't see Kirk Cousins. You have all that money invested into one guy. Where do you think Kirk Cousins plays this year? Because I look at a team like Pittsburgh, I still find it very intriguing that are they really putting their eggs in the Aaron Rodgers basket? Like, to think we just mentioned what we said it yesterday. Aaron Rodgers, we talk about him all the time, right? But you look at Baker Mayfield's there. Let's say Aaron Rodgers is the Pittsburgh Steelers. You're still not there. Like, that can't be good. If you're Pittsburgh, do you look in and try to bring Kirk Cousins in? Because I think he's a better option than Mason Rudolph, Beck.
Well, I'm not sure you're not a better option than Mason Rudolph. But with Aaron Rodgers, we have to understand it's buyer beware.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're bringing in a ticking time bomb into your locker room. I mean, he's never just fit in anywhere, okay? I'm talking about with coaches. He's disrupted coaches. He's disrupted organizations. He's disrupted a lot of things. So not saying he can't spin that ball, but to me, Kirk Cousins would be a better fit because I just think Kirk Cousins at this point is a better football player. But you're going to give Kirk Cousins $40 million. What does he make, $40 million or something like that? Nah, man. I mean, that's not the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh Steelers are not going to give their quarterback $40 million to go there and, be a facilitator and hand the ball off, and because that's what Pittsburgh's about. Although they're starting to
trying
lose
to
their
be.
mentality.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're trying to get it back. I think they're trying to get it back because they've gone away from it, right? Because you and I have been saying, like, what are the Pittsburgh Steelers? Because when you look at identities, how many NFL teams have an identity? I mean, I think the Ravens have one, right?
Ravens.
The Chiefs
Lions,
have one.
The Lions.
You got to give it to the Chiefs. The Chiefs, they have their own way, but they know what they do. Opportunistic defense, right? Underrated defense. But Patrick Mahomes, like, everything revolves around him. And I don't know if that's necessarily the right way to go about every team, because you know how important it is to build in the trenches and to run the football. But I mean, it's hard to argue with a team that's won multiple Super Bowls.
I think the Eagles will have an identity. I think if you're good in the trenches, I think you have an identity just automatically.
Buccaneers have one?
No.
Really? You don't think the Bucs have an identity?
They haven't done anything consistently for long enough. They last year was the first year they ran the ball.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Philadelphia, they're going to run the football, but the Bucs, they got to run the ball 2-3 more years until it becomes second nature. It's not quite second nature yet.
Do you think? Is there any do you have any reservation about going from Liam Cohen to Josh Grizzard as the offensive coordinator, knowing how well the Buccaneers ran the football last year?
Running the football is not rocket science. It's want to. And if you ran the ball well last year, there's no reason why you can't run the ball this year.
Even with the new offensive coordinator?
It's just calling the play. It's all it is.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, you switch from Canales. That my point being, you had Leftwich couldn't run the football, Canales couldn't run the football. Liam Cohen, now you can run the football, and then now you have a different name.
I'm going to disagree with you. I think if you go back and look at the two aforementioned coordinators that couldn't run the football, they didn't run the football. Okay, because I think per rushes, I think the Bucs were still up there. We just never ran the football. Okay, Liam Cohen actually pounded a few people, maybe not even enough. It's a mentality. To be good at running the football is one thing, but to run the football is another. Like the Detroit Lions run the football. The Kansas City Chiefs are good at running the football because everything else there's a lot going on. But the Detroit Lions basically are going to go first, second down, we're coming at you, see if you can stop it. And then we're going to be 3rd and 3, and we're good at 3rd and 3. So I don't know if the Bucs are there, but do that a couple more years in a row, and then, I mean, Baker won't have to be spectacular to win a championship.
Right. So they attempted the 10th most rushes last year.
Yeah, which is odd for the Bucs.
And they averaged 5.3, which is tied for second behind the Ravens. They tied with the Cardinals. Yep. The 2023 regular season, their attempts, they averaged, oh boy, 1, 2, they're way down there. So 30, 31, 30, 29, 20, 27, 23rd.
Yep.
They averaged 23rd most attempts, and their average was dead last, 3.4. I want to go back 1 year.
That's god awful.
Yeah, one more while I have you here. And then they obviously averaged the worst in 2022 as well. But is that one of those things where it's the chicken? They also and then in 2022, they attempted the least. Mm-hmm. So they've gotten better. So they attempted the least, then 23rd, and then 10th. Yep. But they were last. So that's the thing. Is like, even though they attempted it more in 23, they still were the worst. So I think you also have to look at it too. Well, if you're not rushing the ball that well, you can't keep rushing it too. So correct. I understand there's got to be a mindset of like, you have to want to do it before you actually do it, but you also have to be good at it. So that's why I pose that question is, if you have a new offensive coordinator now, even if you do rush it, let's say 23 times, like let's say you take a step back and you only rush it the 15th most instead of the 10th most, can you still be as effective as you were last year because you have a lot of the same pieces in play? Because you have to think the offense with him being here last year, there's going to be at least similarities. It's not going to be exactly the same, but he's going to take a lot of the same concepts from what worked last year, right?
Sure. But, you said, they want to run it better. They ran it, but they want to run it. But you can't become a good running team unless you run it. That's what's hard, okay? You can run the ball twice, and they're like, we're not running the ball well today. Nope. Keep running it. That's what running teams do. and they became that a little bit last year. In the past, first down run, first down run, done.
Mm-hmm.
Now all of a sudden, a quarterback's throwing the ball 45 times that shouldn't be throwing the ball 45 times. Tom Brady should have been handing the ball off 35 times a game instead of throwing it 45 times with his old last. Jameis Winston, why would you have Jameis Winston throw the ball 45 times in any game? I swear to God, Jameis Winston averaged 45 throws a game with the Buccaneers. And if he does throw the ball 45 times, 3 of them are going to the other team, guaranteed. So I didn't understand it.
Yeah, it doesn't make too much sense. I saw Nakobe Dean coming back from his knee injury for the Eagles. I mean, people talk a lot about, all the players that they had. They were without one of their best players on defense, or at least their linebacker, Nakobe Dean. And he talked about how in coming back from his knee injury, he used ballet to help him come back. And we've heard, certain players over the years use kind of unique ways to get themselves prepared for the season. We saw what Aaron Donald was doing with defending the knife attack and stuff like that. What were some of the things that you heard? Was that something when you were playing that guys found unique ways, whether it was yoga or Pilates or any different kind of outside the normal training methods to get ready for the season?
Well, I wish I'd have done Pilates while I played. I think I'd have been a better football player because Pilates made me understand my core a little bit more. I saw like Irvin Fryer, I know, was doing Pilates. I was into Rolfing back in the day, which is a deep tissue massage to get back.
What is it called?
Rolfing, ROLF, Rolfing. Football players will do anything that they think is going to help them. Okay, so I tried everything. I mean, everything. We did boxing. We ran in the pool. We did everything. And it's football players just train. They train a little bit different. And you hear stories of people drinking urine and stuff like that in sports. Yeah. If I found that I could drink my urine and I wouldn't be in pain, I'd have been a urine drinking son of a gun. By any means necessary. And it's funny. I didn't take steroids back in the day. There were some people around me that dabbled. But if I played today, I'd be dabbling in something, HGH or some of these things. Yeah. I think all these athletes are on something, or they're silly.
We are looking at a team, and it looks like Aiden Hutchinson is getting back to 100%, and he's looked kind of funky in some of those videos. His leg don't look right, but I look at this Detroit Lions team, and it's hard not to compare them to the Eagles team that lost to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, because after that year, the Eagles lost Shane Steichen to the Colts, and they lost Jonathan Gannon to the Cardinals. So you lose your offense coordinator and your defense coordinator. The Lions lose Ben Johnson to the Bears. They lose Aaron Glenn to the New York Jets. And I just wonder what kind of toll that it's going to take on the Detroit Lions. And I wanted to get your insight because this team is built. And the reason why I think it's a good analogy is because, we talked about identities with teams. Like, the Eagles and the Lions, they both put a real onus on offensive line play, defensive line play. How much of an impact do you think that's going to make on the Lions this year, losing both of their coordinators?
Well, I mean, if you talk about mentality, I think the Lions probably have the best mentality in all of football. They have the mentality of their head coach. Aiden Hutchinson, it may be a whole six games, 10 games, could be 12 games. Where he comes back to, he may not be himself all year. We just don't know. But with a team like the Lions, you can lose your coordinators because they don't do nothing too fancy now. Mm-hmm. The Lions are, that's as smash mouth as it comes. And even without Aiden Hutchinson, they were still bringing it. And listen, I love when people, they take a coach, like if Dan Campbell doesn't win this year, they're going to say, well, let's fire Dan Campbell because he can't take him over the hump.
That's what they did with Sirianni.
Well, that's what happens in sports in general. But let me tell people, sports fans out there, okay, timing in sports is a lot. Like last year, it didn't time out well for the Lions. It didn't time out well. They got beat up at the wrong time. Everybody else was getting healthy. You're all beat up, and it didn't time out well. You got to have a little luck. You got to have a little timing, and you got to have a team that can match up against anybody. And I think the Lions have been built that way. The Lions are a a rough team that can punch anybody in the mouth. But they could also beat you by 45-42. I've seen them do that. So the Lions have the ability. It's just got a line. It's got to all align.
Yeah, and I look at their schedule. You got to take a look at their schedule. I mean, of course, you got Chicago's getting way better, right? You think that they're building, they're trying to get better with their pieces.
I think that's early. I think people talk about Chicago a lot, and it's because of their quarterback. I think it's way too early to say that Chicago's getting better. Chicago reminds me of Atlanta, where it's a good-looking girl at the club, but I don't know if she could cook, dog.
Yeah, we'll see.
Everybody's thinking Chicago's going to be it because of Caleb. I am not sold on Caleb.
I'm more sold on kind of what's around him and like looking at their depth chart, bringing Ben Johnson in, one of the best, play callers in the game. But, going to get having Roma Dunze in last year's draft, Luther Bird in this year's draft, and putting a lot more. They got Joe Tooney, who was the guy that was fantastic with the Kansas City Chiefs on the offensive line. They invested a bunch of first-round picks on the offensive line. They went and got Grady Jarrett to go with Montez Sweat. Like, they're building right in the trenches, which I think is a thing that you want to see if you're a team that's trying to get better. Green Bay is good in that division. They won 11 games last year. Minnesota was 14-3 last year. So those are three, not cakewalks on the road. Here's who Detroit has to play on the road this year, Ian. The Ravens, the Bengals, the Chiefs. They play the Bucs at home. They go to Washington. They go to Philly, and they go to the Rams. Bro, they have 6 of the toughest road games. Like, that is crazy. So if you're right. Timing is everything, right? So, like, you're looking at a year this year. Like, I really wouldn't be surprised if the Lions, they take a step back this year and they have one of those years where we saw with the Eagles, because they lose their coordinators, because of their schedule. And then at the end of the year, people are going to question Dan Campbell. And then it's crazy because I was looking at it the other night. The Knicks beat the Pacers in that game. They're down 20. Everybody's saying Tom Thibodeau sucks. Karl Anthony Towns sucks. Like, and then at the end of the game, everybody's like, oh my God, I can't believe Cat, he scored 20 in the fourth. Tom Thibodeau did such a good job. Like, people are so reactionary. They're so quick to put out their take on what happened. Sometimes you just got to let it all play out, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, that's sport. That's sports in general. And everybody thinks they can be a general manager. Everybody thinks they can be a head coach because they can play Madden. You know what I mean? And things like that. Well, congratulations on your Knicks, by the way. You feel more confident? It seems like they found something.
We'll see. Tonight is another night, man. Listen, I wasn't confident when they were up 2-0 against the Celtics. Well, somebody tells me, they said, enjoy the game. I go, bro, what? Yeah, enjoy the game? They won the game the other night, and I didn't enjoy it. What are we talking about here? It's torturous.
Definitely didn't enjoy the first one.
Oh, that was torturous. I mean, that's just the way it goes, man. Like, the Knicks, they grind it out, man. They're never out of it. It's never a dull moment. What a weekend over at the Dignitary Cafe. I was telling a bunch of people yesterday, let everybody know about Sandy, because that shrimp and grits was, you told me it was the best you ever had. I usually, when people are, speaking hyperbole like that, I usually don't listen to them. However, you are not just another person in my life. You're one of my good buds. And when you said that, I go, all right. I looked at the rest of the menu. It looked fantastic, but Sandy goes, when I go to the truck, Sandy goes, so why did you pick? And I go, Ian and I have been talking about, today? No, we've been talking about this for a week. She goes, okay, I got you. She comes in with this. And I took a picture of it. I got to post it on my social media.
Please.
Bro, it was so good. When white people say they don't like grits, you haven't had Miss Sandy's grits. Unbelievable, bro. And not like 2 pieces of shrimp either. Like, she loads it up in there. And you see people cleaning the plate. I think I saw Bert and Lenny licking the plate. Just tell everybody what was going on at the Dignitary Cafe with Miss Sandy, because she crushed it.
Well, she was here Saturday, Sunday, and Monday for the holiday, and we kind of just tried it out a little bit. I've tried Sandy's food. I've been to Arcadia, went to Fussel's Meats, and I've tasted her food before, and she could just flat out cook. So we tried it out for 3 days, and listen, I just sit back and I watch and I observe, and I just watch people's eyes roll up in their head when they usually take the first bite. And a lot of people will say, I'm a foodie, I'm this, I'm that. F a foodie, okay? Because food, some people say I'm a foodie. They eat at Carrabba's and eat it. No. I love food, and if I say something's the best, I don't play with that. I would put food along with football for me. Like it's that serious. So if I say something's the best at something, I will go get it because it's not like I don't look like I can eat, and I can throw down a little bit. I can cook. So if I say something's the best, and before that, grits don't have to be fancy. It's not a fancy thing.
Right.
You know who I think had the best grits before I tried her grits? Was Leroy Selman's.
Really? Okay.
Leroy Selman's cheese grits back in the day were top effing notch. Rest in peace. But right now, Sandy's grits are amazing. And no, I didn't hear a complaint all weekend. People went back. Then they got to-go trays. We're gonna probably have it here on a consistent basis. We don't know how consistent, but we're gonna make it happen.
Our guy Johnny B ate a plate of food, I think, in front of me, and then took a bag of stuff home.
Well,
damn.
Do you know how? I'm gonna quiz you. Do you know how heavy Johnny B used to be?
No.
Give me a number. How heavy you think he used to be? Higher.
315.
560.
What? 560?
I asked him just yesterday. 560.
Ian, that's
560.
Wow.
A lot of man.
560?
560.
I can't even wrap my head around that.
You can't wrap nothing around 560.
You got that right. You need two belts. Forget 2 chains. You need 2 belts.
Yeah, man.
And God bless him. What is he down to now? Does he say?
He's about 270. About 280.
Good for him, man.
Yeah, man. Half the man, baby.
Bro, I can't even wrap my head around that. I don't even really know how to explain that. What else is going on at the Dignitary Cafe this week, brother?
We're just taking it easy, man. It's a short week, and we're just rocking and rolling, bro. We're still serving the best kava and kratom in town, and it's just the place to hang out. That's all.
You got that right. Dignitary Cafe, 4817 Southwest Shore Boulevard. Go check them out. Get you some kava, some kratom. Hit up the Bula fam over there. Yep. And, of course, follow Ian on social media at Ian_Beckles. Beck, appreciate you, brother. I'll see you tomorrow.
One love, kid.
You got it, man. The one and only Ian Beckles and Recher Podcast, mañana at 3 p.m. Make sure you go check it out there. Yeah. Oh, my gosh. The food was so freaking good. You got to go. Anytime they have food at the Dignitary Cafe, and I saw former Buck punter Mark Royals out there, like, man, so damn good. Everybody. Like, it got to the point where, like, everybody's speaking, and then everybody stops talking because everybody's chowing down. The food was fantastic. All right, let's see. All right, so I wanted to play this from Pewter Report. Our friends at Pewter Report do such a good job. We'll have somebody up on the program here this week. But Rashad White's Instagram story saying this is kind of his last ride with the team. And Todd Bowles just spoke over there at One Buck Place. I wanted to play this for you guys. Here, let me see. Real quick. Of course, showing a lot of love and giving credit to our friends over at Pewter Report. Here is what Coach Todd Bowles had to say about Rashad, saying this was his last go around here in Tampa Bay.
I don't know what that means from Twitter, first of all, but last ride for me is kind of like Magnificent Seven, going into those type of deals. But I don't know what different things mean. I think Rashad's been here. He's been great. He plays hard. He practices hard. We're going to need all 3 of them. And I'm not really into tweets. So.
There's not the rookies in the building.
It's just like, yeah. It is what it is, right? I mean, Rashad has been a guy that, going into last season, very vocal, very, out social media, doing a lot of different things. He's got to go out there and show it, right? But it's not over yet, man. There's a lot that goes into it. I want to play some more stuff for you guys here. This is Graham Barton. And this is from our pal Greg Allman from Fox Sports. And this is kind of talking about his growth from last year to this year. Of course, we got everything for you here on the Jay Recher Podcast. This is our guy, Greg Allman, and Graham Barton, Buck Center.
Definitely wouldn't say veteran, but definitely, I told some last night I went and watched OTA 1 practice last year, just buzzed through a few clips. and just to see like how, much improvement there's been for me was, it was a good feeling. Just coming out here much more comfortable in this system, got a few more tricks of the trade, but like you said, this, it's optional, but this time is so important to, learning and getting settled in. So when July hits, you're ready to roll. And there's so much you can learn. There's so much football to learn, and OTAs is, great time to think outside the box a little, try different things, maybe tweak things from the prior season and, see what you like, what you don't like, whether it's stance or et cetera. So just try to take this time to, just get better, fine tune some things and continue to learn.
There you go. There's, I don't know why it keeps going back to the other screen there, but yeah, really, really good stuff from a guy in Graham Barton that the Buccaneers are expecting a lot of great things from. And listen, for him, I just love his disposition and the ideas of like, he is so ready to take that next step. After every game he was out there, he was ready to go. It was the right call. I don't think you can go wrong picking a guy like that, and to know that he's going to be in the middle of that defense for a long time. It's a beautiful thing to see. Trying to put some. Jalen McMillan says Emeka Egbuka has made a strong first impression on the Bucs and already knows damn half the playbook. That's what you wanted to see, a pro's pro, a guy that reminds a lot of people of Chris Godwin. And, he is one of those guys that when you look at Chris Godwin, he was a pro, like right off the bat. Got his, he's had now his wife, but they've been together since before the pros, and he was just very stable. And I think Emeka brings that same type of thing. I know Bull said Godwin looking good for week 1 and said if anybody can do it, it's Chris. Yep, I totally agree with that. But there's no reason to rush him back. And that's a great sign. Because if he was on another team, I've been saying this all along, Jacksonville or New England, if he wasn't ready for week 1, people were going to be worried about it. That's why the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Here's Zion McCollum about the 2 draft picks on the outside and what they've kind of brought to the room.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, off the bat, it's new energy. And in the room, you can just kind of feel it. The intensity is just starting to rise up. And it's good. I mean, to embrace it as a room and to come together. I mean, everybody's fighting to be that next level, to get to that next level. And, we're trying to catch these young guys up as quickly as possible. Going into training camp, we want to be able to go into the season at our best. And when they're playing at their best, it allows us to rise our game to an even higher level. And so they've just been getting in shape, getting under the playbook. But it's good to have new energy in that room for sure.
When you look at Zion, he's one of those guys where we said this a lot, and from year 1 to year 2, or when you're talking about incrementally how much better your team is getting, right? Through the trades, through the draft, through free agency, that the pass rush is going to be better just because you have Hassan Reddick compared to last year where you didn't have him, right? But as far as year-to-year growth or year-to-year deterioration, right? One thing that we've seen from a guy like Zion McCollum is that he's gotten better and better as the year has gone on. A guy that really struggled defensively in the year 1, but he was so good on special teams. And then you keep looking forward and like, all right, he's getting a little better here. He's getting a little better there. I think that is a sign of a kid that is never going to let up. He's a guy that is going to try to continue to work on his craft, and he's just not selfish. And we've seen that with Zion. And with those 2 younger corners that the Buccaneers are able to bring in with Morrison and with Parrish, hopefully they can take what they've learned from Zion and continue to work and continue to be ready for week 1. Because you're going to have to throw a lot of different corners out there depending on who you're going to face as far as the skill set of some of these receivers. And, there's going to be some miscommunication. And unfortunately, that's what we saw when the Buccaneers defense struggled, is a lack of communication when some of the guys weren't in the lineup. So when Sarase Dennis wasn't in there, when Antoine Winfield Jr. wasn't in there, like some of those backups had trouble. the Russells, the Hayes, some of these guys, even KJ Britt struggled in pass coverage because of communication. And we heard that from Todd Bowles. And I really hope that that's something that Todd and the defensive coaching staff looks at going into this year. How do you prevent some of the breakdowns in communication when your top guys aren't out there? Like, what can you do to make sure that regardless of who is in the lineup, that you guys are in a position to succeed every single time? And you can't fall back on the same stuff every single time of the communication is not there. Like, all right, we get it. But there's other teams around the league that deal with injuries and they don't have that built in, whether you want to call it an excuse, whether you want to call it a reason. Like, who next? You can't say I have a next man up mentality, and then when that next man goes up and you say, oh, it was a lack of communication. Well, that kind of falls on you as a coaching staff too, right? You got to be able to communicate better. You got to put these guys in a position where they go out there, and if they get that opportunity, they're going to make the most of it. And if they do mess up, it's more of, listen, maybe they're not as talented, they're not as fast, right? But a lack of communication, like, I don't know. I really don't want to hear that this year when it comes to the Bucs. I don't. And they need to be ready for week 1. And we mentioned the Lions schedule, and the Bucs are going to play the Lions October 20th at 7 p.m. on ABC. As of right now, I know it's very early that the Buccaneers are not favored in that one. But you look at week 1, playing the Falcons in Atlanta, big time matchup, September 7th, going to be on Fox, 1 o'clock. That's a good statement for the Bucs because you lose 2 games last year to Atlanta, 1 here, 1 there. You're getting Michael Penix Jr. in week 1. But what does that Atlanta defense bring to the table in that first week? Knowing what they did, knowing that they got Jalen Walker, knowing that they got James Pierce, can they really turn that defense around? Because I wasn't buying the whole, oh, wow, they went out and got Matthew Judon. Okay, guy coming off of injury. Didn't really impress me much. Oh, wow, you got Justin Simmons. Like, great. He plays the exact same position as Jesse Bates. How is that going to work? It doesn't, and it didn't. You look at what their pass rush was and look at their defense, no great shakes, didn't make the playoffs again. Offensively, a ton of skill players that you look at and go, I'd love to have Bijan Robinson on the team, love to have Drake London on the team. Is this offense in year 2 with Zach Robinson going to be able to get the most out of a guy like Kyle Pitts? There's already been some murmurs that, they're not too thrilled with him. You invested a high draft pick on a tight end. You are unable to accentuate his strengths. That's a big cause of concern because you're not out there building in the trenches. You're not out there getting a quarterback. You're not out there getting a guy that maybe is a stud on defense. You went out there and got a tight end, and he has not lived up to that billing. So then what? What do you do with that guy? Because if you trade him, you're not trading him for a first-round pick. Is anybody out there going to trade for a tight end? Second-round pick? Third-round pick? Like, it's not. I don't see that happening at all. So this is kind of the last go when it comes to Kyle Pitts. And I've said this on the program before. Any of these guys that graduate from one of the Florida schools, you're going to keep an eye on. And as good as Kyle Pitts was there at Florida with the Gators, he just has not lived up to the billing for the Atlanta Falcons. Listen, he's had some good games. He's had some decent plays. But, man, you draft a guy that high, you're expecting him to be not just a focal point of your offense, but you're talking about a guy that you're talking to Pro Bowls, all pros. That's the reason why you draft a guy like that, because he's a quote-unquote generational talent. And if he doesn't live up to that, it's a wasted draft pick. People can make all these different excuses and say all these different reasons why, a draft pick doesn't come to fruition or whatever. A guy like Kyle Trask comes to mind, ironically enough. But if you can't utilize that guy for your team, it wasn't a good pick. And I understand the circumstances. I understand that, it's you bring in a guy like Baker Mayfield and they have a quote unquote competition and he beats out Kyle Trask. All right, fine. That's great. You did a good job of bringing in Baker Mayfield. It doesn't mean that the pick of Kyle Trask wasn't a good one, or it doesn't mean it wasn't a bad one. It was a bad one. You needed a guy. You brought him in. You thought he could be the heir apparent to Tom Brady. That's the reason why you drafted him that high. And he hasn't gotten a sniff. You're telling me that getting a pass rusher at that spot or getting another offensive lineman or somebody else, maybe a linebacker to help out Levante David, like that wouldn't have been the right call? Sorry, I disagree. I disagree if you think Kyle Trask was, and there's still people out there like, oh, you didn't know. All right, fine. It's your job to know. It's your job to know when you're constructing this roster. And again, you're allowed to be critical of certain situations and certain selections. Doesn't mean you don't think that Jason Light does a great job or he hasn't drafted well, because I think as the years have gone by, he's gotten much better at doing his job. And that's a big reason why, once again, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are favorites to win the NFC South. All right, let's bring him in. The mastermind behind the University of Tampa and their pitching prowess. It's our good pal, Sammy Militello. What's going on, brother? How are you?
How you doing, Jay? How you doing?
I'm good, buddy. How did it feel to get out of the heat?
God, it's hot out there. I'm not going to lie. And that turf doesn't make it any better.
Oh, my God. What do you guys have, like, the feels like temperature when you're out there?
I don't know. But when I got in my car, it said 105.
Oh, my gosh.
So that's any indication. It's hot.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, my mom and dad were like, oh, yeah, we were having a barbecue up there in Long Island yesterday. It was like, oh, it's like 69, but it feels a lot colder. I'm like, don't ask me what the temperature is here, because it is boiling outside. What was the feel like at practice today with the team as you guys, big wins over West Florida over the weekend to advance to the national championships again there in Cary, North Carolina this weekend? What was the vibe like today at practice?
It's great, laid back, just just going over a few things that the first team that we're going to play does. Make sure that we're that we're prepared for it, but really it's just it's a relaxed feeling. They're out there having fun. A lot of talk about what to expect when we get there. A lot of new guys from that weren't there last year, so kind of filling them in on how things work, how what happens when we get there, the barbecues we have set up for the family and the players, all the good stuff. But now the vibe's great. They're laid back. They're ready to go. They want to go now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of my favorite things about being around UT, the food. There's never a shortage of food.
Yeah, that's for sure.
That's everybody's eating right if you're in the Spartans family, that's for sure. At what point this year did you know that this team had the chance to – was there a seminal moment? Was there a come-from-behind win? Was there one game where you look at it and like, oh, this team's got a chance to get back to Cary?
I don't know if it was one moment. It was like I said, it's a different team, so a lot of new faces, a lot of new personalities. I think our trip to California this year did really did wonders for us as far as gelling, getting together, getting guys to know each other a little bit better. And I think after that, kind of where maybe where we hit our stride. A lot of games this year weren't tested a whole lot with some of the scores. So you wanted to see how they were going to react when we were in some tough games, and when we were, they reacted well. They never gave up. The game we won in the regional, we're down 8-1 was amazing. These guys in the dugout never gave up. Their attitude was great. So they were all rooting for each other. So I think that was a big part of it.
Sam, when I was mentioning this a little bit before, because we were talking about the successful coaches in the Bay Area and how you have to stay even keel and not get too high and not get too low. And I think I told you and Joe this. Like, I looked into the dugout when you guys are losing 8-1, and it's like you guys weren't panicking, you weren't freaking out, you weren't yelling at the kids. It wasn't like everybody was walking on eggshells. How are you able to do something like that? Because obviously we're competitors. You want to win, and obviously 8-1 down. You're like, oh crap! Like you don't want to be in that position, but is it an experience thing? Is it just knowing that, you're with the guys that you've been with before, that you've had success? Like, what goes into that mindset? Because it's a lot easier to be on the outside and be like, oh, don't worry about it, you'll come back. But when you're in it, knowing that you either got to win or you're going home, like it's a zero. Like, that's it, man. There's no alternative there.
They're going to feed off of us. So if we're panicking, they're going to panic. And Joe and I have been in this situation before. Jose, we've all been in this situation before. So it's like, we still got 3 innings left. We still got 4 innings left. We just got to chip away. We called them together after the 6th inning and said, look, we preach 7th, 8th, and 9th inning here. Those are Tampa innings. Those are the innings that we win. So 7, 8, and 9, we just got to go out and win. And, we scored a few runs. And we kept telling them if we get the opportunity to get this a little bit closer, they're going to panic. They're going to panic over there, because that's just kind of what everybody does when we get late in those games. And our guys didn't. The other team did, and that's just kind of what happened. They were, they walked some guys, they hit some guys. The next thing we're right back in the ball game. So, we learn from experience that the game's not over till it's over. I know it's a cliche, but it's so true. So when you're down 8 runs, it's like, all right, we just got to chip away, and we got a few innings to do this. And this team has been streaky at times where they can put up some runs pretty quick. Mm-hmm. So we never felt we were out of it, but we just, we needed something, a spark, and we got that spark, kind of in the middle of the game there.
What do you say on the pitching side? Because everybody always talks about making up the runs offensively, but I think a lot of people forget too, like, hey, the way you come back from 8-1 is by keeping them at 8. So what's the message to your pitchers during a comeback like that?
Yeah, you're just trying to stop the bleeding. We've talked about this, every year I've talked about this. You never know how many runs it's going to take to beat you. So when you go out there and you're losing by 7 or 8, and you kind of thrown in the red towel or the white towel, and you're giving up on it, and all of a sudden here comes that comeback. And if you would have just focused and stopped that one run from scoring, all of a sudden it's a tie ball game where you win the game. So You never know how many you're going to need. So we tell them, just try to eliminate the score, play it like it's a 0-0 ball game, try to stop the bleeding and give our guys a chance. And that's what our bullpen did. I mean, we had, was it five or six innings of zeros there at the end of that game, which gave us an opportunity to come back. And those guys did outstanding.
What has worked so well for some of your starters the last couple of years? It seems like every single year, a conference pitcher of the year is coming from the University of Tampa. What has been so good? Is it, because obviously every guy's different, every guy's got different stuff, but what has it been, how has it been so successful for some of your guys that, they're getting that recognition year after year?
I let them be themselves. I don't want to take any credit for it. You're here because you can do something well. We've seen it in you. So my thing is, go out there and be yourself. Come up with your own routine. Come up with your own, your whatever it is, your pregame, routine that you have to do. Your weekly routine that's going to make you successful. I don't care what it is, as long as you have a routine in place and you go out there and you do it. And getting to know these guys and understanding, when you're calling pitches for them, what works and what doesn't work. When you earn that trust, I think, from them, they throw the pitch with conviction. So I think it's just kind of, just knowing who they are and letting them be themselves. We bring them in here, they're pretty good guys, or else that we wouldn't have brought them in. So it's just letting them relax and have fun out there. And you got, a guy like CJ Williams this year who just, he for the most of the year, he was pitching behind Skylar, who was doing great. Skylar got sick one weekend and we switched it. And next thing CJ's taken off and is named All-American. It just kind of, he was being him. He was doing it in a totally different personality than Skylar. He's going to do it a totally different way, but they both are successful. So in my opinion, I've got even Stipp, I've got 3 number 1 guys, that give us a chance to win every single game.
And I asked this question to Jose a couple of days ago about the hitters. And I said, do you ever tweak anything mechanically? And he's just not really. It's more of kind of looking at situations of keeping a guy, fresh mentally and just having a good time and going out there and taking some extra swings and hitting off the machine or doing just a multitude of different things. But it's never an overhaul mechanics of doing all these. What about you? When you see a guy messing up, is it a mechanical thing? Because I know pitching and hitting, there's similarities, there's differences. Is it ever a big time mechanical shift, or is it more of kind of the mental game?
It's the mental game, 100%. The mental game will make you do things physically that put you in a bad position to deliver a pitch. So, it'll make you late. It'll do other things. So it's really the mental game. It's just going out there and separating each pitch. After you throw one, it's bad. Okay, just, let's go, step on the mound again, clear your mind. Let's go throw the next one. So you're creating games in between games. Each pitch is a game, each hitter's a game, each inning's a game, each out. So you do it like that and try to keep them focused on what the next, just the next pitch. Kind of the same way with hitter. We try to keep it simple. With hitting, with the pitching, we keep it as simple as possible. It's all about throwing the ball over the plate. With hitting, it's all about getting the barrel to the ball. And that's a lot of what we talk about.
You mentioned a little while ago about, bringing in good guys. How important is that when you guys are scouting players? And it's one thing, you got to be able to, you want a guy that can throw strikes. You want a guy that can be able to hit. You want a guy that has, as many of the 5 tools as you can get. But how important is that when you bring a player into that UT program, right? Whether you're looking at him, Jose's looking at him, Joe's looking at him, any of the guys are looking at him. How important is the person when you're bringing in somebody to be able to know that like this guy is going to contribute to us hopefully being successful next season?
It's huge. It's huge. And you do a lot of basically a background check on them. You're talking to their coaches, you're talking to scouts, you're talking to anybody who knows them, the friends on their team that have played with them, and see what they have to say about them. And of course you want the good guy, but you also want the competitor too. The guy that's going to go out there and give you everything they have. And I'll be honest with you, it's not easy. It's because you're bringing kids in from so many different backgrounds. But when we get them here, it's how quickly can they gel to what we're about and what we talk about family. And most kids, when they come in, the day they walk in the door, they're not the same kid the day they leave. It's a transformation kind of our culture here and what we believe in. And
what's the biggest change? What's the biggest change, Sam, when you see it? Maybe not specifically as a person, but like, what is that difference when a guy walks in versus what? Is it the selflessness? Is it just team above me kind of thing?
It's all those things. It's that, and it's family. It's pulling for everybody. It's you see the relationships develop. You got a guy that comes in and is kind of a he's real aggressive, a real high energy guy, which a lot of our guys are not. So you kind of got to see him mold into kind of what our guys are about. We don't take that away from him because that's part of what made him successful. But he softens up to his teammates. And all of a sudden starts to care. And you start to see those things start to develop. And it's cool because, you're taking a bunch of strangers and putting them together, and it's not easy. And that's part of the biggest things for us is that years down the road, these guys are still friends and they're still in each other's weddings and their kids are hanging out together. And, and we've created this. We've brought these guys, these strangers together and kind of created this for them. And all of a sudden they got friends and brothers for life.
Yeah, and that's one of the best parts when you go to a UT game is like there's so many alumni, so many former players that are at these games. Every single game, like you can't go to a UT game there at the Birdcage and not see a alumni. It's impossible. I've been to hundreds of games over the years, and I've never been to a game where there wasn't an alumni there. It's crazy. What's the next couple of days like, Sammy? Because obviously you want to find that balance, right? You want to find that balance of like staying calm, but also like, all right, we got to make sure that we can't leave any stone uncovered. What's the next, just from your side, for your pitchers, what is the next couple of days look like before you guys head down to Cary and get rolling?
Just getting ready, not looking past anything, focusing on the team that we're going to play, but just getting all the guys ready. Had a bunch of guys throw bullpens today. I got the other half throwing them tomorrow. Getting everybody ready to go. So Saturday, everybody's available to me. And then we get up there, you kind of get adjusted. You get an hour and a half practice on the field over there in Cary. So get them just get them accustomed to the field, how it works and the atmosphere. We'll do a couple dinners and stuff like that to get these guys going. But ultimately, we tell the guy, and Joe tells the guys all the time, the team that settles in first is going to be the one that wins it all. When you take away all the external factors and all the pressure of the World Series, it's the team that relaxes the first team to relax, and the first team to kind of accept that and relax and play is going to be the team that comes out. So we'll spend a lot of time talking about that. Joe does a great job with explaining to these guys, how to relax and have fun with it.
One of the things that's been well documented over the years is your relationship with Joe and the success, and Jose coming in years later, and just, man, you guys have just had such a incredible success. When you first met Joe, like I don't want to say when you first met Joe, when you guys first got together at UT, when did you know that this was really going to be successful? Right, because a lot of people look at it now. We look back at how many championships you guys won, but going back to the beginning, when you first not played, when you coached there, what point did you guys know when you looked at each other like, man, what we're doing is the right thing? This recipe is going to lead to success.
It was the first year we got here, the team was kind of already here. Terry Rupp had done a good job of recruiting a lot of good players, so they were kind of here already. We came in and we were told, you can't, this is college baseball. You can't develop players. You got to win. And Joe and I, both coming out of pro ball, coaching pro ball for the previous 4 years, we were all about development. That's how we learned. So, they're like, well, you can't do it that way. And like, well, we're going to try it. And we were able to do it. So, we got players here that we thought that we could develop. And in our opinion, if you're developing, you're winning.
Right.
So I would say, it happened pretty quick. Well, we were on the same page. And I think it helped that we both came from pro ball. So a lot of the things that we learned there, we brought over. So we gelled really quick. Him and I were good friends. We played, I played against him in Little League, played against him in high school. We played together in college. So we knew each other. We were good friends. So it didn't take long for us to gel that way. But I think coaching pro ball really helped us because we came in with the same mindset and we both had the same goals and what we wanted to do and how we wanted to do it. And it's been a great relationship. I mean, he lets me run all the pitching. He says, I don't know anything about pitching. You do it. Just tell me what you want to do. And he trusts me like that. And it's been great. It's been a great, I know what he's thinking. He knows what I'm thinking. So it's been a good run.
Before I let you go, Sam, I want to ask you, the big thing is family, right? And it's one thing to have the family, as far as, the family that you build, right, with the players, but there's also family that like you have, like, to see your family there and to see, being so close to the Russos over there and now having Cole on the team and seeing JD grow up and be part of the team and, to see, Alexa on the softball side, like, what is that like to be able to have like kind of like, I don't want to say your real family, but like the family that you have, right? The family that you grew up with and now your family with the baseball side. Like this to me is one of the most unique teams that you guys have ever had because it's not just the UT baseball family. Like this is like the Militello Martin Russo side.
Yeah.
As well,
Yeah. No, it's been great. It's been great. We've, my kid, Joe's kids, they've grown up at the field. I don't know if you saw it. Mel posted a picture the other day of JD and her and Cary when Alyssa was like, 3 years old. And then she had one of them hugging the other day, all grown up now. But they've grown up together and, in the Urso family and my family we're all family. Now you add, Alexa, my goddaughter here, playing softball, and you add Cole, my nephew here. And it's just been it's been a great year because it has felt more, even more like family than in the past because of, of the Russo connection and it's been awesome. They, I'm so happy for Cole, getting this opportunity. He's loving it. He wants to be there right now. He doesn't even want to wait for Thursday to leave. He wants to go there right now. And Alexa doing her thing, they're in the finals up, in Chattanooga. So it's just been awesome watching them go about their business and doing what they love. And then, of course, JD, I've seen JD, I was there when JD was pretty much born. So seeing him throw a baseball around all day long while we were at practice when he was 2 and 3 years old to what he's done now and leading this team, it's just been great. It's been awesome. And it is a family affair and we love it. We wouldn't want it any other way.
Saturday, 6:00, first game.
Saturday, 6:00.
How do you say it? Felician.
Felician.
All right, my friend. We will. When do you guys leave?
We leave Thursday morning early.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Sammy, I appreciate your time today, my friend.
Absolutely.
Of course, I'll be up there. Not this weekend. I know you guys will win a couple of games, and then I'll see you next week. Can't miss it, man. Cary, North Carolina. You just call it Tampa North, I guess, because of how many years and how many times you guys spend up there. But give my love to Joe, Jose, the entire family, Mel, and the entire outside of baseball family, even though everybody's the baseball family.
Yeah.
I appreciate you, my brother. Always great catching up with you. Best of luck, and we'll talk soon. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You got it, pal. The one and only Sam Militello. I mean, this is a guy Tampa through and through from here in the Tampa Bay area. I had Sam Militello's baseball card growing up, which is really awesome. But again, the best part about sports in this town is that the most successful people are the best people, right? And we're going to talk to another one of these greats here in a couple of minutes here. But Sammy's been a guy, like some of the conversations Sammy and I have about baseball and sports and just life, like it's just, you bottle it up and sell it. Like it's amazing. And being around UT, again, Friday I did a show for an hour just because I wanted to get out there and go support the Spartans as they made yet another trek to Cary, North Carolina for the D2 National Championships and the World Series up there. And you want to support programs like that. You want to support teams that preach family and preach togetherness and selflessness. And that's what it's all about. And if you're going to spend your time, my time, money, energy, those are the people that you want to do it. And that's a common thread, I think, between successful franchises, organizations, teams. And, you say that a lot about UT, and you say that a lot about, the Tampa Bay Lightning, and when you ask your friends, they don't even bat an eye. They're like, yeah, we're going to the Lightning game. We don't care. We're going to buy jerseys. But they've shown that those are the type of people that you want to support. And we're going to bring in now one of the guys we've been supporting since day one, the one and only Nigel Kirwan, video coach for our Bolts. What's going on, brother? How are you?
I'm good, Jay. How are you?
I'm good, man. And, just talking to Sammy there for UT, and a lot of the same things to the Bolts, man. Like being a part of that organization and seeing how many people go to these games. And I'm sure you've seen how the Distant Thunder has grown over the years and people supporting you guys on the road. I mean, what is it like to be part of such a fantastic organization where people they don't even bat an eye, man. They're willing to go to these games, to go to Amalie Arena, go to Sweden and support you guys. It's got to be cool to be part of that inner workings of the fabric of that team.
Yeah, obviously very blessed. And it wasn't always like this. And you got to give Jeff Vinnick a lot of credit here for kind of giving the organization some stability and the financial resources to be successful. It starts with ownership, and we've, dare I say, got the best in the business. But it's a really neat feeling when you're in another city like Sweden and you see thousands and hundreds of thousands, not hundreds of thousands, but hundreds or thousands of Lightning fans walking the streets of Stockholm. Or the really big one actually was the Nashville outdoor game. I mean, yeah, I couldn't go 5 steps on Broadway without running to somebody I knew. Tampa fans just took over Broadway. So a really cool experience. So to be in the middle of this and then be a part of it, and obviously we've had some success here, and this community has completely embraced us in such an awesome way. And it's been fun, and we're going to try to keep it going.
Yeah, it's funny because when I remember in Nashville, I got out of the cab or got out of the Uber and I was walking. I was like, I'm going to say "Go Bolts" to every person I walk by. And then it was like, no, it was like 45 straight people. And I didn't know how many I was going to see. And then it was like 45 straight Lightning fans. I'm like, all right, there's a ton of Tampa people here, man.
Like I said, I couldn't take 5 steps though running into people I knew. And everybody wearing Lightning stuff everywhere, like every bar, every balcony. There was just Lightning people all over the place. Like that one was thousands. So, and a very small space too. Like it's not a big. Yeah. But
right, man. I was at Ian's place yesterday, and he brought up you being a ball boy for the Buccaneers back in the day. What is your favorite memory from being around the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, being a ball boy back then?
Ooh, I have a lot of good memories. So I used to warm up Vinny Testaverde on before practices, and we had some great conversations. I remember watching Joe Ferguson throw a curveball with a football to my brother, and just my brother tried to catch this ball that started outside and then would drop inside, and I knew Joe was able to do it, but I had my brother catching. He was a high school wide receiver at the time, and it's little things like that. Steve DeBerg, I remember the day he got cut, and he kind of came into the locker room and he had his head down and a towel over his head, and we all thought he was kind of crying. It looked like he was kind of upset. And then all of a sudden he whipped the towel off and started laughing about how he fooled everybody in the NFL for all these years, and he should have been cut years earlier, and just went the other direction with it. The whole locker room was laughing. And a lot of fun little stories like that with the people I encountered and the people I worked with there. At the end of the day, I think that's what I remember the most is just the relationships I built, like Ian Beckles. I was there when Ian was drafted, and he treated me really well, and we've been buddies ever since. And there's others, like Mark Royals, and there's been a bunch. Winston Moss used to, when Ray Perkins was the head coach and I was a ball boy for practice, sometimes the ball would bounce away, and if at any time it went near Winston Moss, he would grab it and he would throw it as far as he could in the opposite direction, because he knew if that ball wasn't spotted in time, Perkins was going to just go lose his mind. Right. So he thought it was hilarious. And I love Winston. He was great to me. He used to do that. Every time a ball would bounce towards Winston, I'd be like, oh no. So, and we'd only have so many footballs on the field at one time where you'd be running and spotting. So for him to do that, it would throw the timing off. Then Perkins would just lose his mind. So
that's great. I love that. Yeah, I saw Mark Royals yesterday too, man. It was.
I have not seen that guy in a long time. We text each other right now, and I haven't seen him in a long time. So if you do, tell us hello.
I will, man. He looks great. Saw him at Ian's place yesterday at the cafe. Obviously a lot of sports still going on right now. Baseball side and NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs. When you guys get knocked out, how much hockey do you watch after that? I can't watch like the first round after. It takes
I find it a little tough to watch it right away. It takes me about a week to 10 days. That being said, if I'm out somewhere and it's on TV, my eyes automatically go to it. I don't really seek it out for the first 7 to 10 days. I don't actively look to go watch it, but I find myself watching most games, most nights anyway, just naturally. So
yeah, and obviously the series and going down to South Florida and seeing what the Panthers were able to do, and it's them being one win away from going back to the Cup. I mean, somebody was posting it the other day. If they make it to the Cup final, it'll be 6 years in a row a team from the state of Florida make it to the Stanley Cup final, which is pretty wild. What was it about Florida? Was there anything watching them was different from last year? Because I feel like the team was more suited to go up against them this year, knowing that the 5-on-5 play was better, the defensive play. We know what guys like Mac were able to do to contribute to that. But was there anything, do you think, that surprised you guys about the Panthers, or was it just like they were just executed at the right times?
No, they executed. They played extremely well. There was nothing that they didn't surprise us with anything. I mean, the physicality we expected. I think the thing that, and I'm not making excuses, the Florida Panthers were the better team. They won.
Right.
God bless them. Congratulations. And so I don't want to sound like I'm making excuses. I think the thing that we ran into that affected us more than people realize is we were healthy all year long until the playoffs started. And then we just got injuries that were, to people that were key. And like Cirelli probably should have been out 6 to 8 weeks. And, Luke Glendening probably should not have been playing, but a testament to the kind of warriors those guys are. They're like, we're not coming on the lineup, like we're going to play. Like Yanni Gordy, he couldn't hold a stick, like he had a broken hand. And so I think, again, I'm not trying to make excuses. I think that played the biggest role in probably us not having the outcome we were looking to have.
Bjorkstrand too. I mean,
Bjorkstrand, exactly. We brought him for the, to be in the power play on that right side, and he didn't even get to the series, So we just, and I've always said this. I said this in 2004. I said it in 2020. I said it in 2021. To win the Stanley Cup, you need two things. You got to be good, and you need to be lucky. And we had those in droves all 3 years.
Right.
And I think, again, I don't know Colorado's lineup or team very well. I don't know Florida's team very well from what's going on behind the scenes. But, I know they're good, but luck's involved in there too, And I think every team that's won the Cup the last few years had a combination of both those things. So
yeah,
I know we certainly have. And I think this year we just got a little unlucky with the injury side of things, and that probably had a bigger effect on the series than anything else. But I don't think Florida did anything that surprised us. I think we were ready for them. The physicality we knew was coming, and I've seen this team handle that before with no problem. So I don't think it was that. I just don't think we were at our healthiest, and I think it cost us.
Yeah, and I've been saying this for years now. Is Braden Point doesn't get injured in that series against Colorado, we're probably looking at three-peat. It's just like I remember being out there and being one of the few Tampa guys in Colorado and watching Pointer do whatever. Like he fell and everybody, and I was videotaping. I was like, I'm not going to post that. He was giving it everything he had, but it was just like. You lose a guy like that. Listen, they lose McKinnon in that series. So we're having a different conversation, right?
Yeah. That's the luck factor, And then you got to puck. It's puck luck. It's calls to referees. It's injuries. Like I always said this with that Colorado series. I don't know who would have won it, but I would have liked to have played that series with a healthy Braden Point, and I think Cirelli was also hurt for that one too. I would have liked to replay that series with both teams being healthy, or with us being healthy. Certainly, I'm not saying the outcome would have been different. I don't know. Hats off to Colorado. They won fair and square. They deserved it. Congratulations. But I would have liked to play that series with a healthy Braden Point for sure.
We see Jeff Blashill getting the job with Chicago Blackhawks, and really good to be able to see a guy get the opportunity after being with Detroit, and then here we understand his relationship with Coop over the years, and now gets the job up in Chicago. What did he bring to the table? Because I think sometimes it's harder to glean for the casual fan of like what the assistant coaches do, because people could just say, all right, he works. I mean, everybody knows what you do and what Franz does, right? Because they're like, oh, video, but I think sometimes like the assistant coaches, when it's not as defined offensively, defensively, what did Jeff do as far as helping out with the coaching staff? And who is that not saying who is the next guy, but what is that next guy going to have to try to do to kind of be part of that puzzle of the coaching staff?
Well, I think the biggest thing that Jeff did coming in as a head coach, and a very, very smart hockey guy, very intelligent, he wasn't afraid to challenge the status quo, which is what you need. When you've had success and you've been chugging along and you've won some Stanley Cups, it's really easy to get stuck in where you're at and not try to test new norms and new boundaries or try new ideas. And so I think the biggest thing Jeff Blashill did for us was he was able to come in and say, hey, what about trying this or what about this? And he bought great. Him and Zets teamed up to do the PK, but they were awesome jobs on the penalty kill by both of those guys. But really, he was able to keep us on our toes and not be afraid to say, hey, have you guys thought about this? Or what about trying this? And always looking for new ideas or different ways to be successful, because everyone's going to come after you when you won. So you have to be ready to, change things up a little bit. And I'm not saying we made a lot of changes, but he was able to come in and just challenge the status quo a little bit and make sure we were staying on our toes and not getting complacent in how we were doing things in the past. So really good with analytics, brought in some new ideas from an analytics standpoint that he had in Detroit that I thought were really good and helped us. And I'll tell you, he's an excellent hockey coach, and he should be a head coach. He's not an assistant. He's a head coach in the National Hockey League for sure. And it's a big loss for us. It's a big loss. He's going to be hard to replace. He's excellent what he does, but he's where he should be, and that's in a head coaching role.
Speaking of head coaches, everybody knows my relationship with Coop. He's always giving me grief about my shoes, and we just, we have such a great relationship. And what is it like being around Coop, just like the guy? It's one thing to be around him as a coach, and we always laud him for his even keel and the way he's able to talk to players. And, he's grown so much and be able to come up from the AHL to here and winning everywhere he's went. But being around John Cooper, the guy, and I feel like for me, it's been great to get to know him as a human being, as a dad, as a husband, even away from the rink at a lot of the charity events. But just being around him and just, what is it like to be around Coop, the human being?
It's fun. Maybe a little too much fun, to be honest with you. But I think the biggest thing, you have to have your big boy pants on because he's very witty and he will chirp the crap out of you.
Yes.
Well, you see that. He can't help but chirp people all the time. Like he's looking for a reason to mock you. So anything you slip up or do or say, or you can expect something's coming in your ear. He's gonna come after you in that way. But he's a lot of fun away from the like we work hard in the office and there's a lot to be done and he's a strict boss in that regard. Away from it, it's we're like anybody else. We like to have a good time. We like to go fishing. We like to go to the horse track. We like to sit at a bar and just talk hockey and have a beer or two. We go to cigars and smoke. Go to Ebor's, and smoke cigars. Like we're very casual that way. When we get away from the office, we kind of go decompress, and we do that often as a staff, and it's fun. A lot of staffs just. Everyone goes home at night and we'll see you for the next day for the next game or the next flight. But this group is pretty good about getting together and just discussing hockey stuff, but away from the rink in a more casual setting. We spend way more time together at home than you would think in doing that kind of stuff. And so that's unique, I think, a little bit to compared to other staffs I've been on. Where we get together a lot as a group in Tampa, away from the games, and I think that's driven by the personality that is John Cooper.
Yeah.
I hope he does not hear that because he will absolutely kill me for saying that.
Oh, that's so
sorry, Coop.
Sorry, Coop. We love you anyway.
I meant Coop, not John Tortorella.
Yeah, we know. So take us through, because they did a really good thing. I think it was on Recharge, kind of giving everybody a behind the scenes look at kind of what your operation is on the day of a game. So for people that haven't seen that, what is it like for you because you can't be, oh, wow, we need this replay. You need to be, so it's every zone entry, every high stick, every puck near the glass. Like, how does that go when in the middle of the game, it's you and Brian and you guys are just focused? Like, how does that operation go? Are you like, hey, close play there, I'm going to take a look at this. Hey, we got to check that zone entry. What's that communication like? And then how do you communicate that on the bench with the guys?
So to be honest with you, we have two computer systems that are doing different jobs that have to be managed by either Gar or myself, right? So I'm doing most of the hockey coding stuff, like everything that happens within the game from a systematic standpoint, kind of logging all that, making sure it's marked and notes are on it, listening to the bench for anything that they may want me to just mark down for them to look at when they come in. And then Gar really runs the replay machine. And I'll tell you this, most of the time, a lot of the time, like on offsides, I'm not even involved. Unless it's a close one, unless it's a really tight one, that's when we'll have a discussion. And then we'll make a decision. Sometimes it's Gar, sometimes it's me, sometimes it's Coop that makes the call.
Right.
And sometimes it's like we don't think we should challenge here, but Coop will challenge anyway. And to be honest with you, he's actually been pretty good in getting those ones right when we're not sure, we don't have a good angle. So it's a team effort for sure. And the way we communicate is Brian and I are both on headset to the bench. And Franjean, our goalie coach, he's on headset up in the booth, and then on the bench you have Jeff Halpern, although he never wears his earpiece. Jeff is notorious for asking us questions, but his earpiece is never in his ear. So it's like, Jeff, like Blash, can you tell Halpy the answer to this question is this? So most of the communication is with Blash in terms of when we're making those calls, and a lot of it, like. In terms of the entries, we're checking that every single entry automatically. Like we're just looking at it. So the easy ones are the ones where it's so obvious we know. And Gar will say, "Hey, this is offside," and I don't even look at it. Like I just, I trust him, and I don't look at it at all. And we know ahead of time, and we'll tell the bench like before puck even goes in the net, "Hey, this is offside." So if you see a real quick challenge after a goal, you know that it was an obvious one.
Right.
Where I get more involved is when we don't know, when we're not sure, when it's really tight. If you see us delaying or guys hanging out going to the face-off right away or lingering by the bench or Jeff Blash and Coop kind of really look at each other and Blash yelling in his headset, and that's when we're really trying to take a look and we're both looking at the screen trying to make a decision on to whether to call it out. But it's usually a group effort in terms of the decisions get made and how they get made. It's usually a group effort. And sometimes when we'll tell Coop, we're not sure. We don't know. And then Coop will not challenge it, or he'll sometimes gamble and he'll challenge it.
So for you, you're more focused on like what the players are doing and kind of things like that, and what teams are doing, what the other team's doing, kind of stuff like that, as far as how you guys can utilize that to break down tape to make the team perform better.
So basically what has to happen, I'm kind of playing the piano the whole game. Like as everything that happens gets logged into our computer system, like everything gets marked. It could be whether it's a fight or whether it's a penalty, or it could be systematic, obviously, like face-offs and breakouts and neutral zone tracks or entries. All that has to be cataloged and marked so that when the coaches come in between period, they can access what they want to see really quickly. If they want to see breakouts or why we can't break out, they need to be able to that computer system and say, "Hey, show me all the breakouts." Well, that has to be entered. That has to be marked and logged as the game's going on. And that's what all of us across the league, there's at least one guy doing that. So that's what I spend most of my time during the game doing. And I'm also listening, like they may say, "Hey, Nigel, mark that something unique and put a note on, and I'll make a note for them." So that when they come in, they can pull up, they have a button that they can hit that pulls up just their comments, and that clip will be there. They have to go looking for it. And then sometimes we do meetings in between periods. If the game's not going well or there's a problem, then Coop's going to want to go in and show the team some clips. Well, we have to have that stuff easily accessible, so that because we only have about 8 minutes before we need to go in and talk to the team. So the time the period ends to the time when Coop's going into the locker room to talk to the team is only about 8 or 9 minutes. So you have to spend those minutes wisely and efficiently. And so my job is to help make sure we're able to do that by making sure everything's cataloged and available to be seen upon entry from the coach, with the coaches in the locker into the coach room.
It's intricate, man. Intricate as hell. Holy smokes. So what does the rest of the summer look like for you, man? When do you start getting kind of back in the groove and start preparing for the next season?
So right now I trickle in a couple days a week, but it's all paperwork stuff. It's all ordering, like maybe new computer. Well, we have a new coach coming in, so I'm gonna have to get a new computer for him and help Blast transition out. It's supply stuff. It's new trunks for some of our video equipment. It's that kind of stuff. But stuff I can take the entire summer to do.
Right.
We kind of go back at it sometime. I always tell people Labor Day. After Labor Day, I'm kind of back to work, and that's usually when we start getting ready as a staff to plan training camp. The week to 10 days before training camp starts, we're back in the office pretty hard in terms of planning next. That's a lot of work. But my summer is, I can kind of do what I want. I can trickle in and out of town as I please. And you always have to be available for a special project. If Coop calls up and says, hey, I need you to look at this or pull this together and send it to me, then I have to be ready to do that. But summer's pretty casual, fishing, golf, and that's really about it for me.
Before I let you go, man, who is the one player over the years? It could be on this team or over the year that wants as many clips as possible. Because I know this on the baseball side. I've talked to some guys; they don't want to know. They want it to. And it takes. They have to go into a major slump before they look at a video. And then other guys wants to see every at bat, every pitcher. Who's the one guy over the years that he wants to see as many video clips? He's trying to break everything down.
First guy that comes to mind is Nikita Kucherov. He is extremely diligent about watching his game and watching every shift and knowing what he did or did not do. He's the first guy that I'm concerned about in terms of getting him his stuff right away. It's like, okay, as soon as the game's over, I spend a few minutes getting his stuff ready and getting it to him as quickly as possible. JJ Moser is another one, and the other guy too. I'll stick with guys that are on the team now. The other guy too is Connor Geeky.
Okay.
Connor Geeky is pretty diligent about watching his. I'm not saying there aren't other guys, but the guys that stick out the most in my mind right now would be Cooch, JJ Moser, and Connor Geeky. So,
Moser is a guy that, bro, he talks to me after every morning skate for like 10 minutes. Like he's a talker, bro. Like there's certain guys like you quick comments here and there. Mo's asking me questions. Did you watch this game? Did you do this? What's it like being a media member? What's the worst part? What's the best part? I'm like, this dude, he's the last guy to get ready. You know, coaches are coming in. Dude, you still got your uniform on? Like, he's a guy. He's a different cat, isn't he?
He's a great guy. Great guy. I love him. He's a big personality and a really nice, kind person. Like one of my favorites on the team. He's a little pale for my liking. Like I keep telling you got to get some sun, man. Oh my God, he is white.
Yeah, man.
He is really, 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 really pale. So I'm always busting his chops about spending some time in the sun, but I don't think he can because he'll get burnt. So
that Swiss skin, right? He did great at the World Championships, which was great.
Yeah, he did. He's a guy who's going to have success in his career because he wants it badly, and he puts in the time, the effort, and really studies the craft. So I think he's only going to get better and better over the years.
The one and only Nigel Kirwan, video coach for our Tampa Bay Lightning. My brother, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for your time. Let's get together soon. Fishing, golf, Ian's. Let's do something.
Happy to do it. Say hi to your boy Ian for me, and let's tell him to get a trip set up and let's go fishing.
Let's do it. Tell Coop I said hello. Tell him I got some fancy shoes for opening night. I know he's waiting with bated breath.
You can always tell when you're coming down the hallway because those shoes are just like radiating from down the hallway.
And if I wore a pair of brown shoes in one of the games here, Coop looks at me. He's like, "You're getting lazy in your own." Thanks, Coop. These are the most expensive ones I got, but they're brown, so Coop hated them. Appreciate you, brother. Talk soon.
All right, take care, man. Thank you.
Thank you. The one and only Nigel Kirwan, man. What up, man? It's a lot of information packed in to our chat there. I mean, the behind the scenes work that these coaches put in, right? And the video cuts, like the game's going so fast, right? And you mentioned like 8 minutes. Think about when you're going to the game and you're seeing how much time is during intermission, 17, 18 minutes. Like, it goes by quick. And when you have 7, 8, 9 minutes to be able to divulge that information to the players, right? To disseminate what you got to the coaching staff, like you got to be able to turn that around quick. So I always thought that Nigel, and I think a lot of people look at, the situation with the Lightning and when a play gets challenged like that, who's the guy to turn it around quick? We always think that it's Nigel, but it's usually Brian Garlock. So shout out to both those guys. They do a phenomenal job, but that shows you how important the lines of communication are with these teams and how it's more than just this coach and that coach. And Jeff Blashill was a guy that, is now the head coach with the Chicago Blackhawks. And I think he got a lot of unnecessary criticism with the team, people wanted to blame him for some of the things that happened. And I think that was not really smart or well-informed, or just, I don't think your anger was placed in the right direction, like towards the right person. And you heard it from Nigel there, what he was able to do to help this team, and how he was the guy that was able to be kind of the conduit between the rest of the coaching staff and the video crew back there and the video coaches. So something to certainly be cognizant of when you go forward, when you're talking about coaches. I think hitting coaches, right, and pitching coaches, a lot of those guys get a lot of shtick for when things don't go well. But at the end of the day, and you've heard it from a lot of different coaches here on the show, like, you're not changing things mechanically. A lot of times it's mental, between the ears. It's what these guys have to do to try to put these athletes in a good place, because they got to this point to be a professional a certain way. So you're not going to go in there and say, hey, I know you're struggling right now. Let's bring your hands up here. You bring your hands down here, shoot the puck this way, or right. You don't do that. You're not going to reinvent the wheel, because there's such a small percentage of these guys that play these sports that make it to the pros, and they got there for a reason. So as what Brady North has told us for the race, we're rumble strips. Guys go off the road a little bit, we get them back on track, and then we go from there. Speaking of the Rays, let's bring him in. You see him, and what a great job that he does all year long, for whether it's basketball or baseball, but especially during the show yesterday for Memorial Day, which was really cool. Our guy, Rich Hollenberg. What's going on, brother? How are you?
Jay, how are you, my friend? Good to see you as always.
I'm good, man. You are the closer. You're the Pete Fairbanks of the operation today. 5 huge guests on the program today. We start with Nick Rodriguez, Tampa's own, who had a 40-game hitting streak from Missouri State. We go to Sammy Militello for UT, and Ian Beckles and Nigel Kirwan, and Rich Hollenberg, no better guy to close it off. The Mariano Rivera of this operation
Can I just
today.
jump in for a quick second?
Go ahead.
Go sideways really fast. Nigel, when I first jumped on and I was backstage and I saw Nigel, that brought the biggest smile to my face. What you might not even know about me, Jay Recher, is before you were born, essentially, I was the PA announcer for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Paul Porter, there was a window where Paul Porter was not doing the PA announcing for the Lightning. And I stepped in there, and Nigel was part of the team back then. Mm-hmm. And he's still there. He is bedrock foundation Tampa Bay Lightning, man. Love that guy.
What year was that?
I want to say, let's see, it was before I met my wife. It was, I want to say maybe 98. Wow. It was pretty soon after they came into existence. It was not long after that. And they were terrible. Vinny was brand new. I think he was 17 years old at the time. Roman Hammerlick, Chris Gratton. I'm going way back. And I talk about it when it comes up, since I brought it up. I might have been the youngest PA announcer in all of professional sports at that time. I was just an idiot in my 20s at the time.
98, man. I was 13 years old, man. Those are the days.
It was right around then. Something
unbelievable. I want to ask you some college basketball stuff here in a bit too, of course, because we saw Condon's going back to Florida, which was a big news today. And I mean, Coach Brian Hodgson is doing a fantastic job with USF, and unbelievable. But I got to talk to the Rays, man. They've turned this baby around, and I was at the game Saturday night, and I feel like when you talk about the Rays and some of the struggles that they have, just the even keel of Kevin Cash and not getting too high, not getting too low is one of the reasons why they're able to kind of come out of it. But I also think him getting fired up, getting tossed last week, Rich, when you see something like that, because my 2 cents is, if you're a coach that does that all the time, it's not as impactful. But when you're a guy like Cash, he's kind of go with the flow, and then he does that, that's when the guys go, oh, okay. I think it spurred the team on, and now they've won 6 in a row. What say you?
I don't disagree at all, Jay. And I will say this, what you just described is why I will die on this hill that Kevin Cash is the best manager in baseball. And I know Doug Wechter feels the same way about it. It is not because he possesses more X's and O's or inside baseball skill sets than any other manager in the 29 other franchises. It's because he combines that expertise with elite level communication skills. And in this day and age, communication is something that not all of us are really that good at anymore because of our freaking phones. And when you think about and I use this term as a term of endearment, when you think about the kids that are in that clubhouse, because most of them are, they all do not know a life without this in their hands. So the ability for Kevin Cash to cut through that clutter and all the noise that social media makes and otherwise, he is by far, in my humble estimation, the best communicator in all of sports. And I'm not saying that he blew a gasket in that game and got the gate for that particular reason. I think if you asked him in an honest moment, I think his team not playing well had as much to do with him blowing a gasket as the call that he took issue with. But I think those two things are more than interconnected. And it just shows you that, in a 162 game season, Jay, you're not going to push all the right buttons all the time, but Kevin Cash does it more times than not.
Yeah, I'm with you. It doesn't have to be just because it's not like contrived doesn't mean it didn't have the, the outcome that you wanted, right? And we'll take it, man. 6-game winning streak in this team. And I look at some of the guys just going to the game and watching Chandler Simpson. Rich, I don't know. I mean, I think he's the most exciting player the Rays have had since Arozarena. I think he could be one of the most exciting players they've ever had in franchise history because you can't teach that speed. I saw him hit a ground ball to Clement the other night at second base, and it was a routine ground ball, and Clement, who's a good fielder, was like, you could tell the wheels were spinning. Like, I got to get rid of this ball. And it was it was a 4-3 in the book, but it was just one of those things where if you're not looking for it, you don't notice it. But there was a heightened level of, oh my gosh, I have to make this play and I got to make it clean. Like, not every player is able to do that in sports, but man, Chandler Simpson, my God, every AB is must see.
Yeah. Very small sample size. He's only been in the league since the middle of April.
Right.
But I will say this because my wheels have been turning in the same direction as yours, which is scary to say the least. But I think of Randy Arozarena. I think of Carl Crawford. There's a short list of players you would put in that electrifying category. And I'll use a sports term that is usually reserved for football. But what Chandler Simpson is and does for this Rays team, he's a game wrecker. That's what he is. And you don't have many of those in baseball. Ronald Acuna Jr., when he's healthy, is a game wrecker. And it's not necessarily because he can hit you 30, 40 bombs. It's because of what he does on the base paths, in addition to that power. Now, I'm not comparing those two. Chandler Simpson doesn't have that power, but he has underrated bat-to-ball skills. Dude had almost 1,000 ABs in minor leagues, and he was a 324 minor league hitter. So this guy has the potential to be at least close to a 300 hitter. And then every time he gets on, even if it's a base hit, even if it's an infield single, you basically count that as an extra base hit because chances are better than good that he's going to swipe a bag on, if not 2 bags. So we only can hope that this rookie season continues and he continues to grow and blossom. And I had an awesome conversation with him last week. I don't want to give away too much because it's coming up on a future Rays All Access. But one of the things I asked him was about goal setting. And he told me in no uncertain terms, he not only writes down his dreams and then they become goals, which is something I endorse wholeheartedly.
Right.
But he takes it a step further and he sleeps with that list under his pillow. That's how dedicated and devoted and driven that Chandler Simpson is to set a new standard for speed on the base paths in Major League Baseball.
I love that. What would you say is the reason why the Rays have been able to kind of turn this thing around? And I said Friday before we hopped off air, I said this is a big series for the Rays. You're facing Toronto. You have a good weekend. You're looking at second place when we get back on the air on Tuesday, and that's exactly what happened. I'm not giving myself credit, but it seems like they've found their groove a little bit after really struggling at home. I think getting used to the surroundings, from what I've heard, some certain guys, it's just, certain balls don't go out. You think they're going to go out. It's an adjustment, right? It's an adjustment. And, it's still early on in the season, but from what you've seen, what do you think is the biggest reason for the turnaround?
I think the ballpark is starting to play like the ballpark we expected it to play as. And that has to do with Mother Nature as much as anything. It's getting hotter. It's getting more humid. The Rays had 18 home runs in their last 13 games. This is only, 7 games into a 9-game homestand. Right. So they started hitting homers before they returned home. And now they're hitting homers when they're home. It used to be that there were a lot of home runs hit at Steinbrenner Field, but the opposition was doing most of the home run hitting. Now, all of a sudden, the Rays are matching their opposition, if not bettering them. And lately, obviously, they've been getting the better of them in that department. So I think that has a big say in that. I also think that you do have to get used to your environment. And that was something that was, I think, a little underrated or not talked about a lot coming into this season. Brian Anderson disagrees, and I respectfully understand his take on this. Everyone has to play on the same field. You can't say it's a home field disadvantage for the Rays. But what I can say is this. The Rays have played more games on that field than any team in baseball, right? Because it's their home field. So the learning curve was a little bit bigger for them. They had to get used to it more than an opposition coming in, an Atlanta Braves, a Boston Red Sox going, I just have 3 games to play. It's just another ballpark. The Rays had to prepare for this for 81 games, and now it's finally starting to click. And the other thing is, Jay, and Rays fans might not want to hear this, and I don't want to throw a cold blanket on a 6-game winning streak, but they're still just 1 game over 500.
Right?
Last year, they were 2 games under 500. You're going to have to prove it to me over a longer window of time that they are that much better than they were last year. Here's one reason why I think they will be much better than last year when this final book is written at the end of the regular season. It's because their pitching is so much better. The first week of the season, we saw it with the starters. This last week of the season, we've seen it again with the starters. This is without Shane McClanahan. God, I hope we see him this season. Maybe it's sooner than later, but who knows? But I think the relievers are going to be the relievers. They are going to be one of the best bullpens in baseball. I came into this season going, you know why I think the Rays can make the playoffs? It's because their starting pitching could be the best in the American League. And right now they're pitching like that. If they could keep this up, and I don't think it's too big of an ask, if they could keep this up, then I think they could be a playoff team. Right now, there are 9 teams in the American League, Jay, who are within 5 games of 500. So the Rays are in there, right? Yeah. Outside of the 3 division leaders, the Yankees, the Cleveland Guardians, and the Seattle Mariners, outside of those 3, or I'm sorry, the Detroit Tigers are in first in the
Tigers,
AL. Outside of those 3, it's a battle royale for the final 3 playoff spots. And the Rays are in it right now. And that's all we can ask for.
I'm with you, man. And I actually do think, going into the season, we're talking about the, how do you acclimate to a new ballpark? And people thought that just because, the Rays usually are, right? Nobody exists better in unique situations than the Tampa Bay Rays, just the way it goes. But I think, myself included, we thought it was just right out of the gates they were going to be okay and being able to do that. It took some time. I think it took the first quarter of the season. I'm with you. I think there's mental hurdles that go through, especially baseball, man, because they're creatures of habit. It's not like the other sports, right? It's a 0 for 4, 4 for 4. That's why I always call it's like the heartbeat of America. You got to get back up and got to go to work, whether you had a good day or a bad day at work. You got to get up and go back to work tomorrow. Same thing for baseball. 4 for 4, 0 for 4. You got to get back. You got to go do it again tomorrow. So what kind of routine have you had in a ballpark that is new to everybody? And that's the training staff, that's the equipment crew, that's everybody. So I'm with you. I think they're finally starting to figure everything out. And I'm excited to see what happens. Like, hopefully a guy like Shane comes back, but now you're getting a guy like Hassan Kim, and he gets an opportunity to really show some of his skill yesterday. And what kind of impact do you think he's going to make on this team? Because you get a guy in, and it kind of reminds me of the Wilson Ramos signing a couple years ago, where you knew he was going to be injured for a little bit. Then he comes in and plays really well, and then you move on from him. I don't know if the Rays are going to necessarily move on from him, but this is a guy that can play defense at a bunch of different positions, can swing it probably a little bit better than maybe some of the guys they have, maybe like Taylor Walls, but we'll see. Maybe this kind of thing makes Taylor Walls elevate his game, because we see that in baseball. But as far as Kim goes, how excited are you to see him in this lineup?
I can't wait. Gold Glove caliber. They have some options because of the ways the team's playing right now. The one thing I think you'll see Jose Caballero get a lot more looks in the outfield because there's just too much of a logjam. Taylor Walls is still viewed as that valuable. Yeah. And now he is starting to hit a little bit and produce a little bit. Not a lot, but a little. I think Hassan Kim is going to see some time at second base. I think Hassan Kim is going to see some time at DH. But look, if his first rehab game is any indication, he is ready to produce at the big league level. And I can't wait to see it because it just adds to the depth and the already existing versatility that the Rays value more than maybe anything else. We see, do they put the highest premium on hitting home runs? No, but now they're hitting home runs. Do they put the highest premium on speed on the base paths? Yes, they have. For the second season in a row, they're tops in the American League, if not tops in all of baseball in stolen bases. So where does Hassan Kim fit into that? Well, he plays elite level defense, and he's got great bat-to-ball skills. So that's going to put more traffic on the base paths, and the Rays need that because the dirty little secret is during this stretch where they're playing better baseball, they still have scored 3 runs or fewer in 4 of the last 7 games. That's despite a 6-game win streak.
Right.
So the offense still isn't where it needs to be because you can't ask any pitching staff, even if it is the best staff in baseball, and right now the Rays are pitching like that, you can't ask them to put up 2 or fewer runs allowed every single night. It's just not going to happen. So you need to score more runs. I think Hassan Kim's going to help in that department. And then you get into the question of what's going to happen with the logjam in the outfield. Johnny Luca's on his way back. Jake Mangum's on his way back. There's going to be one, if not a couple of odd men out. And I love Cameron Meisner in center field, dude.
Yeah, man.
He's just not hitting a ton right now. And he's a rookie, no matter how old he is.
Yeah.
So his number might be up, at least for the time being. Travis Jankowski, a veteran they brought in as a stopgap measure. Now all of a sudden he tweaks his groin and he hasn't played. His number might be up. But those are the hard decisions that Eric Neander and Kevin Cash are going to be forced to make. And I like to call those champagne problems. Those are high-level problems for a team that's playing as hot as any in baseball right now.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people, you don't want to get on Tyler Walls. Oh, get rid of this is a guy he is the favorite for the Platinum Glove. I mean, number 1 in defensive runs saved in all of baseball. That was 2 days ago. But, I mean, this is a guy that he affects the game with his glove. And sometimes you affect the game with your glove when you don't realize it. Like fielding defensively, sometimes you don't realize how much of it factors into the game because a guy doesn't make a mistake, right? If a guy goes 24 games without making a mistake, and just because you don't notice him, it's almost like an offensive lineman. You don't hear the name, it's a good thing, right? So that's kind of the same thing we have to keep in mind when it comes to Taylor Walls. I want to ask you about some college hoops. Brian Hodgson comes in. I know you and I spoke about Tom Crean as a possible guy to come in after Coach Ben Fletcher, after Amir Abdur-Rahim. This guy's crushing it right now on the recruiting trail. Top 25 last time I checked. I feel like we're building off of some of the good vibes that we've had the last couple of years. But, I mean, you saw it being at the game there, remembering AAR. I mean, this thing is – we saw it a couple games when Amir was here, the game against FAU. I mean, man, this thing is bubbling right here in the Tampa Bay area, isn't it?
I love it, and I'm here for it. And I will tell you this, not only was I at that game when they honored Amir, but I was also embedded for 48 hours with Coach Hodson when he took his former team, Arkansas State, to the Sun Belt Championship game. And obviously at that time, I had no idea he was going to be the next head coach at USF. But this guy is a Nate Oates disciple. He speaks to Nate regularly, and that is not going to change. And I know USF Bulls basketball fans have probably heard this already in the last month or so since Brian got hired for this job. But Bulls fans will have never seen a brand of basketball inside Yuengling Center the way that they're going to see it now with Brian as their head coach. It is going to be up and down. It is going to be breakneck speed. It is going to be high scoring, a ton of threes, and it's going to be the most exciting brand of basketball that USF has probably ever seen. When I first moved down here, I was covering USF when Stan Heath was the head coach, and it was all predicated on defense. And he got them, to a pretty successful level. But since then, there really hasn't been that much of an identity with USF hoops, and now there will be. Brian Hodgson is going to put his stamp on that. And so I think that's going to win him a lot of games early. And he is a great dude with a great backstory. And I just can't wait to see what he's going to do with Tampa Bay as his backdrop for recruiting. Because if he was able to recruit dudes to Jonesboro, Arkansas, he's going to be able to recruit dudes to Tampa, Florida.
You got that right. Rich, before I let you go, break in, break through, let everybody know how the event went with Laura Rutledge. I mean, I just saw so many great things, so many great feedback of people that were able to be there and be able to take part in there. Just let everybody know how that went, and also how they can get hold of you, and because you're doing so many good things for the next generation of broadcasters.
Thank you for asking about it, Jay. It was a response that was beyond my wildest dreams, to be honest with you. I try to manage my expectations, but sometimes you allow yourself to dream also. And when I dreamt of this business, which is mentoring aspiring sportscasters, that's what Break In and Breakthrough is all about. I had no idea what the reach could be. And we're in our 4th year now. And last month we had our first live event, which means it was open to everybody. It was not an invitation type of an event. Anybody could sign up, and we had a tremendous response. And Laura Rutledge is, as you know, just fantastic. She's an absolute home run as a person and as a sportscaster, which is why I wanted her on. The next live event is already in the works, and we're going to have, I can't say bigger stars than Laura, but stars just as big as Laura, household names, people who are near and dear to my heart, but who are also elite level sportscasters and broadcasters. So more to come on that. I'm sure we'll be talking about that more. But the Break In and Breakthrough train keeps rolling, and the next cohort for aspiring sportscasters is open now for registration. I have a few spots left. It starts on June 22nd. We meet on Sunday nights for 8 weeks. So if this is reaching anybody who is an up-and-coming sportscaster, or who knows someone who dreams of being a sportscaster like I am, like you are, Jay, you go to my name, richhollenberg.com, and all the details are there on that site.
Yeah, go check it out right now, richhollenberg.com. Just go through the site, and you may not think that you know somebody, but listen, I was coaching baseball for 10 years before I ever got into radio, and I wasn't necessarily looking for it. Heard on the radio, it changed my life. That's not hyperbole. It really did. So it may be something you never even thought about before, or somebody that's a big sports fan that knows a little bit about everything. go look at the website, richhollenberg.com. Share it with somebody. You may know somebody that knows somebody. You never know. Things like this, just changing your career, it's life-changing, and it changed my life, and that's what Rich is doing. Again, break in, breakthrough, richhollenberg.com, at Rich Hollenberg on social media as well. Rich, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much. I always appreciate your time making my show a whole heck of a lot better. We'll talk again soon, my partner. Thank you so much.
The pleasure's all mine, Jay. Great to see you, and raise up. Hopefully you get another series win tonight.
You got that right. Thanks, Rich.
Take care, Jay.
You got it, pal. The one and only Rich Hollenberg. Check him out. Doug Wechter, the whole crew over there at FanDuel. They do such a great job. Love watching those. I mean, it's one of the best parts of not slighting the game at all, but they just do such a great job. It's fun to watch, man. And they make you feel part of the broadcast. They make you feel like you're talking with you, not at you. And I think that's what I try to do here on the program too. Talking with, not at. It's vital. It's vital to, I think, success and for everybody to be entertained and informed. What a show today. We've been doing our shows, a 3-hour, not full 3 hour, but I always like to get off before 3 because it's a good lead in for our guy, Tom Krasnicki over on WDAE. Wow. 5 huge guests on the program today. Nick Rodriguez, Missouri State standout. What he was able to do over there with the Bear was insane. And we, of course, have a lot of love for the former Jesuit Tiger graduate. Ian Beckles for his weekly visit. Back on Mondays, next Monday, but always great to catch up with Beck. Sammy Militello, UT. And Danielle, stop tweeting us. That's funny. Of course, Sammy Militello, UT Spartans, as they get ready for the national championships there in Cary. Nigel Kirwan, the coach of our Tampa Bay Lightning, the video coach, and, of course, Rich Hollenberg. What a great time with him. All right, Dave Randorf is going to join us on the program tomorrow to talk a little Lightning hockey. We've got Jordan Yost joining us on Friday, University of Florida commit, Sickles High. He was the Saladino Award winner for Best High School Player here in the Tampa Bay area, so I can't wait to talk to him as well. Follow me on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. Can't get enough of this stuff. We appreciate everybody for tuning in. This has been a lot of fun. I'm going to go rest and relax. I'm going to go check out my friends at Mr. Empanada. I think they're opening up a new spot. Hold on real quick. I want to make sure that Trippy. I know Mr. Empanada is opening up a new spot soon, so make sure you guys go check out Mr. Empanada, run by some friends. Mr. Empanada, new location, 5006 East Fowler Avenue. You can go check those guys out. So there you go. All right, I love you all. I appreciate you guys. Have a happy and a healthy Tuesday. Go Knicks tonight. Oh my God, I forgot about the Knicks tonight. Let's go Knicks, baby. Let's hope that they can win and even up the series at 2 apiece. I don't know about that, but I do know we'll be live tomorrow at noon talking about it right here